go to the website. But if that's a little bit too confusing, they can always call our front desk, and our front desk staff will be more than happy to go ahead and register them also.
Okay, Patty Berry, Family Programming Coordinator at Memphis Botanic Garden. Sounds like a great event. Thank you for coming on the digital desk and explaining it to all of us. Should be a great, great time. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. I want to show you this here. This is Ministry Leaders Marriage Conference set for October 10th through the 12th. Daniel and Dee Henley. Looks like they are the host of this conference here that's happening later, just a few days from now. I'm joined right now by Daniel Henley on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Got a great shot of you, Daniel. So tell me more about this conference, October 10th through the 12th. Good morning. Uh-oh, I can't hear you. Are you on mute?
Wow, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. We got you now. Go ahead.
Woo, hallelujah. I'm excited. Our Church Developers Network is presenting this conference along with Bellevue Baptist Church. We're excited about 500 pastors and senior ministers who have registered for our conference, and there's still room for more. And we're going to talk about marriages. We're going to talk about them in today's age. There's a lot going on right now, you know that. And we're going to deal with a lot of matters that I just believe will be a blessing to the city of Memphis.
So this is for everybody, Daniel. This is for people who are married, first couple years, people who are married 30, 40, 50 years, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because if you're a ministry leader, you're going to be interacting with folks of all kinds, folks that have been married a long time, folks that are thinking about marriage, folks that are in the process of being engaged and that kind of thing. And that's what we're talking about is right relationships, how to be in a right relationship. And so far, my wife and I have been doing this over 20 years. We've been blessed to, hang out with a whole bunch of folks. It's going to be very diverse. The conference is going to look like Memphis. It's going to be, it's going to be basically blacks, whites, Latinos. We have interpreters from 8 a.m. on Thursday morning till we close out on Saturday. On Friday night, we're going to have a big banquet and a play called Mr. Provider. So it's going to be themed around the family. It's going to be themed around the right relationships. And we're going to have some amazing speakers. So we're just really excited. We're going to have some amazing training on Thursday. So we're just really excited about what God is doing here in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, so it's this week. It's October 10th, 11th, and 12th. And tell me more about how people sign up for this. If they are watching this, they want to sign up, or they want to learn more about each of those days, Daniel, where can they go for information? And as you mentioned, this is at Bellevue Baptist Church?
It is. You can go to Church Developers Network, that's one word, .org, and you can see all of the speakers. Every day is laid out. We're going to do Thursday starting at 8 a.m. and, Friday, Saturday, churchdevelopersnetwork.org. I've said consistently that Memphis is going to go from worst to first in less than 17 years, and we're already into 7 of them, so about 2035. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to come together. We're going to see God together. We're going to do life together, and we're going to grow together. This marriage conference is a part of that. When you get 500 leaders together like this, in an environment that's open to learning and growing and right relationships, man, you can do a lot of damage to the city. And we're going to do that here in Memphis, Tennessee. All the racial matters and some of the issues that we face in 10 years, we're not going to face those issues. And this is a part of how we're doing. Now, this is not the only thing, but this is a part of it. And we're really excited about that. So, yeah, you can go to churchdevelopersnetwork.org and you can find everything you want to find out about the conference. And we're, again, just totally excited about being with Bellevue. They've been a tremendous partner, and we got other partners as well, but we're just excited about it.
So let me ask you this, okay? So you've been doing this for several years, Daniel, and have these conferences, have they evolved a little bit? You know, you start year one, year two, you have a certain agenda, various topics, and now here you are, year seven. Have they evolved to different topics? How have they evolved, if they have?
Oh, yeah, they've definitely evolved. As a matter of fact, 5 years ago, we did a assessment of 100 pastors where we tried to figure out what was going on with the pastors here in Memphis, Tennessee. Well, we came up with 4 matters that we need to address: communications, conflict resolution, and we thought the third one would be finances. But the third one was actually partnership styles and habits. In other words, you're one way on Sunday morning in front of everybody, or when you're in your leadership role, and you're different at home. So we had to deal with that. And many folks have told us that that has been the watershed moment for them because now they've changed. They're at home a better person. I myself, you know, I'm going through an anger management class right now. I hate to say it, but I'm 62 years old. That's one of the matters that I needed to deal with, and I'm doing it, and I love it. Our pastors are learning that although we're okay, we're not perfect. And we all have stuff that we need to work on. And man, it's just been amazing watching over these. You said 7 years. The prophecy has been over 7 years, but Ms. D and I, my wife and I, have been doing this, the marriage conferences, for 20 years. So we've seen a tremendous change in our folks, and that's why it's grown so much. You know, starting, we might have a few pastors that showed up, and we were excited about that. But now we'll have 500. Probably could have got more than that, but that's a good number in order to make it intimate, make sure that we could put our hands on folks and tend to their personal needs. So yeah,
Wow, so you've been doing
it's
this
evolved.
20 years. That's fantastic. And a lot of times, you know, during these conferences, sometimes they'll separate the genders where it's like men over here, women over there.
Yep.
You mentioned about 500 people show up. Is it pretty evenly balanced between the two?
It's very balanced. Many are couples. Some are singles, and we will separate the two on Saturday. We'll have a women's talk and a men's talk, and they will come back together and almost like report back to each other what was said. So the answer is yes, it's very, very balanced. And we will have that separation, but only to bring us back together to make us stronger.
Excellent. All right. Daniel Henley talking about this marriage conference that's happening October 10th, 11th, and 12th at Bellevue Baptist Church. Ministry Leaders Marriage Conference. That's happening later this week. Daniel, I appreciate you coming on the digital desk, and thank you for spelling it out for us and really taking that time to help so many people, hundreds of people across Memphis and the Mid-South. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for your graciousness.
Morning, welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. Let's talk a little bit about reducing healthcare costs during open enrollment. It is approaching, of course, and there's a concern among those looking to be a part of open enrollment that really sheds a light on a health issue, affects millions of Americans. A new study shows that 88% of U.S. adults lack sufficient health literacy to make effective choices when it comes to open enrollment and to utilize the healthcare system. I'm joined right now by Dr. Rhonda Randall. She is here as a part of the Vice President, Chief Medical Officer of United Healthcare to really just kind of make it very easy to understand plain and effective ways about open enrollment and ways to reduce costs. So where do we begin, Rhonda? Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Thank you for having me. You're right, open enrollment period is upon us. This is a time of year when millions of Americans are making a decision about their health plan for next year. And it's a good time to really assess what's going to be best for your budget and your healthcare needs. And it's important to remember that open enrollment periods aren't the same for everyone. So depending on your situation, if you're one of the millions of Americans who get your coverage through an employer-sponsored plan, you're generally going to have a 2 to 3 week period between now and the end of the year to make that decision. Watch for that communication from your employer so you don't wait to the last minute. If you're a Medicare beneficiary, the annual enrollment period starts next week. It begins October the 15th and runs through December 7th every year. And if you are shopping for an individual plan on the health insurance marketplace, that open enrollment period is from November 1st to January 15th in most states.
So let's talk about tips for selecting the best coverage for the individual. Where do we begin with that?
I'd start with those terms that you mentioned earlier. Most of us find them confusing. Things like deductible, copay, coinsurance, premium, what do they all mean? Websites like justplainclear.com and Medicare madeclear.com can offer explanations and really help you understand those terms a lot better when you're reading through your plan options. Recognize a lot can change in a year, so consider if your current benefits are still meeting your needs and if there are any changes in the plan that you're currently in for next year. Understanding those differences between original Medicare and Medicare Advantage, if you're a Medicare beneficiary, is important as well. Look into things like specialty benefits, dental, vision, and hearing. For example, for Medicare beneficiaries, original Medicare generally doesn't cover those things, but many Medicare Advantage plans do.
I know that there are a lot of benefits, mental health support, wellness programs, virtual care, that sort of thing. How do we find the best plan for our budget?
I'm glad you mentioned those things. Mental health coverage has been something that's been particularly important over the last several years. Many plans are going to include virtual options, and that's one of the things that can help you find the right behavioral health coverage and guidance. For Medicare beneficiaries, some people can find plans that cover those virtual mental health benefits at $0 copay. Wellness is important as well. You can often get rewarded for activities like completing a health survey, avoiding nicotine, getting exercise, and some Medicare Advantage plans are going to cover a gym membership at no additional cost to you.
Okay, and when it comes to just really kind of sinking your teeth into all the services, all the information, all the options out there, is there a place that maybe we can get kind of a, I don't know, a cheat sheet or some way to just kind of effectively do it?
Yes, you can go to uhcopenenrollment.com. If you visit uhcopenenrollment.com, you'll find tips, resources, those terms, and the links there, as well as plans in your area and information about them.
Okay, Dr. Rhonda Randall, we appreciate your time here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and thanks for spelling it out for us as we're hitting open enrollment season. We appreciate it.
Thanks. Be well.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I want to tell you about a fall festival that's happening at the end of this month, towards the end of this month, October 26th. That is a Saturday from 10 until 4, and there's going to be all kinds of different things happening, live entertainment, vendors, games, a kids zone, outdoor movie, food trucks, and more. Let's bring in Corey Brown, Memphis Parks Administrator, to talk more about this fall festival celebration. So, Corey, give me the details here. This is Saturday from 10 to 4, and this is at Gaisman Park, right? Good morning.
Yes, yes, sir. Like you said before, this our fall festival. It will be taking place at the end of the month from 10 to 4. Where we have live entertainment. We have over 60 vendors already confirmed that will be there. We have a kids zone for the kids. We have a petting zoo, food trucks. We'll have an athletic zone as well so the kids can get active, and we'll be showing the movies as well.
Oh, yeah? What kind of movies? What kind of live entertainment? Tell me more.
Also, we have a live band. I don't want to disclose the name right now. We have last year Teen Fest winners will be hitting the stage as well with the live entertainment. And the movie we'll be showing is Despicable Me 4. And the movie time going to start at 1:30 on that day. So, yeah, we just excited about it.
That's fantastic. So how many people showed up last year, and do you expect the same crowds this year? And where is Gaisman Park, by the way?
Gaisman Park is on Macon Road, 4221 Macon Road, right beside Gaisman Community Center. And this year is our first year doing a fall festival at one of our parks. So we just excited about having the community to come out and enjoy themselves and have a good time.
Fantastic. All right. So Gaisman Park, thank you, off of Macon Road, and food trucks, a movie, games, all kinds of stuff. What can we do to let people know? What other things can we tell them about it? It's free, right?
Yeah, it's free. Oh, yeah, it's free. So everything Memphis Park try to do, we try to offer it to the community for the free. So we just encourage everyone to come out. If you're not doing anything today, just step out for a little bit, get some fresh air, have a good time, fellowship, meet the community partners, and just enjoy the entertainment that we have planned.
Okay, and do you encourage people to show up in costume? I mean, that's just a few days before Halloween.
No, hey, we encourage you, whatever you feel comfortable. I'm gonna have on the costume, but I don't know about everybody else because I love this season. So yeah, we encourage everybody to just come out and be themselves. If they want to wear a costume, they can. That'll be great. That'll add to the festivities. So yeah.
So is there a place where people can go online to perhaps learn more about this event, Fall Festival?
Yeah, so on Facebook, you can follow us on Facebook at Memphis Parks. It's on Facebook, and on Instagram, it's MEMS, MEM_Parks. And we update all our events on there. So yeah, follow us on social media. We keep everything updated about everything that we have going on, coming up, etc.
Okay, Corey Brown, Memphis Parks Administrator. We appreciate your time on the digital desk. Good luck on that Fall Festival event, Saturday, October 26th from 10 to 4. We appreciate it. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. We are always looking for healthy ways to eat, diet and exercise, live our life so that we can have an optimal, healthy way of life. And certainly we want to find the best foods for fall so that we can enjoy the fall colors, the fall temperatures, the atmosphere, the football, the games, what have you. Let's bring in a clinical dietitian with Methodist Le Bonheur Hospital. I'm joined right now by Lindsay Acree, a clinical dietitian with Methodist in Olive Branch. Lindsay, good morning to you. So where do we start when it comes to eating the best and the healthiest foods this fall? Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you? When it comes to starting and, trying to decide how to eat healthy, when to start, fall is a great time to do that. Fall foods are packed with many health benefits. They're vibrant in color, sweet, savory, and are packed with essential vitamins and minerals. So getting started, I would first recommend just familiarize yourself with these fall foods. There are so many options. There are beets, apples, bell peppers, broccoli, cauliflower. The list is pretty lengthy and it can go on. Just familiarize yourself with this so when you are grocery shopping, okay, this is what to look for. This is what you should be purchasing. Once you have your seasonal foods in mind that you're wanting to try, I would recommend, searching for a new recipe. Trying these seasonal foods with a new recipe offers many new flavors, textures, and ingredients that you may not have tried before. Just remember to start simple, then become more adventurous.
I like that. I like that idea. And, that's always a good thing to have throughout the year. Just lots of colors on your plate, lots of fruits and vegetables. Tell me about your favorite in-season produce and maybe ways to incorporate that into meals and just have a healthy dinner tonight.
Yeah, so two of my favorite in-season fall produce would have to be sweet potatoes and spinach. Spinach is one of those food items that you can sneak it in. You can really add it to a lot of different foods. So, for example, you could put it in your eggs, omelets, smoothies, soups, stews. You can add it with your meatballs, your meatloaves, and even pasta dishes. Again, this is something that can really be added in most dishes. Also, sweet potatoes, they're great to pair with a lot of main dishes. They're great for roasting, baking, air frying, and even again, throw it into those soups and stews that you may not normally think about.
That sounds fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about the benefits of eating some of these seasonal foods. I know that people like certain things all around the year, but there are some benefits to eating foods that are in season, right?
Yes, there are many benefits for eating in season. It can help promote healthy blood sugar, help stabilize and get your cholesterol within a normal range, help lower your blood pressure, also can help with digestion, lower your risk of heart disease and stroke, and fight some inflammation. And again, all these vitamins and all of these fruits and vegetables, have many vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants in them. But the thing here is with these foods is you want to have variety in your foods, and you also want to have variety in color, like how you had mentioned earlier. The different in colors indicates the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that are present in the food. So color is the really important piece here, is we want to have a big variety in that.
I totally get it. Okay, let's talk about oils, because I know that, just based upon what I hear and what I've seen, in various studies, olive oil and avocado oil seem to be some of the better oils out there. Am I right or wrong? And what else would you put in the good column when it comes to oils to cook with and eat with?
Yeah, so you're definitely spot on. Olive oil, avocado oil, and also vegetable oil. They're all great oils to use. You can use them for sauteing, grilling, roasting, baking, pan frying. They also not only they taste good, but they have general health benefits. They're full of healthy fats, which again help lower that cholesterol and all of your bad fats that you could be consuming. And then they have that anti-inflammatory effects. So all in all, those are great choices to use when cooking.
Fantastic. Okay, one of the things that I have found that's beneficial to me and to my daughter, for example, who's away at college, is meal prepping. Got any tips for those of us who like meal prepping?
So yeah, meal prepping, some people love it and then some people are not for it. Main thing when it comes to meal prepping is it can be very tedious and your meals can actually be kind of boring because you're eating the same thing. So fall is a great time to introduce these, foods that you may not normally try and introduce those new recipes. Because again, you're gonna be exposed to new flavors and textures and ingredients, and it can make these more boring style meals that you may have been consuming, and it's something new, and it will make you more excited and overall not dread that meal prep day. Also, you could pull out your crock pots, Instapots, and air fryers to help with the ease of your preparation for meal prep.
Yes, I love it. I have both, and I also love air fryers too. I mean, they make things
Yeah.
a lot easier to cook with too. Pretty healthy as well. Anything else you'd like to mention, Lindsay, that we haven't talked about? Best ways to eat fall foods, best ways to maintain that health through the fall season and winter months. Anything you got? Go for it.
Um, I I do have this is the perfect time to get outside. The cooler weather is finally here and hopefully to stay. So it's a great time to get outside and do some physical activity, whether it's walking or biking, hiking, whatever it is. Um, Not only is it important for us to be regular with our activity, we also need to make sure we're staying hydrated in this time, getting adequate sleep, and managing our stress, because all of these factors, in addition to what we eat, is how we maintain our health.
Okay, Lindsay Acree, dietitian with Methodist Olive Branch. We appreciate your time on the digital desk. Very informative to all of us and the thousands of people who watch each and every morning here. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. So let's talk about preventing fires in your home. And the number one way to do that is smoke alarms. They reduce the risk of dying in your home by more than 60%. And then 3 out of 5 fire deaths, 59%, happen in homes with either no smoke alarm or no working alarms. Let's talk more about this issue, fire prevention, with our next guest here. I am joined now by Susan McKelvey, a communication manager with the National Fire Protection Association. Susan, thanks for joining us on the digital desk. So smoke alarms, that's what it's all about. It's so important to so many families across this country, right? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me. Yes, we are focusing on making sure that everyone has working smoke alarms during Fire Prevention Week because we know the critical role they play in keeping people safe in the event of a fire. So we are emphasizing the importance of installing them in the right locations, testing them monthly to make sure that they're working, and making sure that they're maintained as well too.
So let me ask you this. I think a lot of people are in agreement that, smoke alarms, there's no really an argument there. They are it's one of the most important things you need to have in your home. But a lot of people are trying to figure out exactly where to put those smoke alarms in your home for best benefits. What do you recommend?
So you want at least one smoke alarm on every level of your home, including your basement. You also want one in every bedroom and near all sleeping areas. If you have a larger home, you may need more than one on each level. The other thing you can do, though, if you have any questions about where your alarm should be located, you can always reach out to the local fire department and they will be happy to assist you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's talk about when smoke alarms need to be replaced, or the battery. I know that we like to say, the battery should be replaced every time you move your clocks back or move your clocks forward. Is that still best practice?
So we used to say that you would change your batteries once a year, but what's happened is that not all smoke alarms use traditional batteries anymore. Newer smoke alarm technologies will often use 10-year batteries. So you don't need to replace them in those cases every year. As a rule of thumb, now what we say is that change the alarm when the battery begins to chirp, signaling that it's running low and it's not time for a new one.
What about those alarms that are, I guess it's called interconnected alarms, where they're kind of set up with the electrical system or set up in the household?
Yeah, so interconnected alarms are exactly what they sound like. They're alarms that are all connected to one another in your home so that when one sounds, they all do. And that gives you the earliest warning of fire possible, so you have that added level of protection.
Susan, what else can we talk about when it comes to preventing fires in our home? And where can we go online for just, some friendly reminders out there for the people that are watching?
Sure. So the leading cause of home fires is cooking. So you really want to make sure that when you're cooking that you're doing it with a close eye on what's on the stove or in the oven. We know that the leading cause of cooking fires is unattended cooking. So again, paying close attention can make a huge difference. It's getting colder out. Heating is the second leading cause of home fires year-round, but it is the leading cause of home fires during the winter months. So make sure your home heating system is in good working order. Make sure that if you use things like portable space heaters, again, that they're in good order, that if you're going to use them, make sure to turn them off when you leave the room or go to sleep at night. It's little steps like that that can make such a huge difference. So just having an awareness can really help minimize the likelihood of having a fire. But of course, if you do have one, you want to have the adequate protection to alert you to the fire in time to get out safely. And that's why smoke alarms are so critically important.
Okay, Susan McKelvey, National Fire Protection Association. We appreciate your time here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Thanks very much. Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. There's a big anniversary coming up in the city of Memphis. We're talking about a centennial anniversary, 100 years of entertainment between the Cannon Center that is at the Convention Center and Ellis Auditorium, which was on the same grounds there back in 1924, started out. It's now where the Cannon Center is. And that's 100 years of entertainment in downtown Memphis. So there is a party to remember and recognize this achievement. And joining me now to talk more about it is Memphis historian Jimmy Ogle, joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Jimmy, nice to talk with you once again. So tell me about, first off, the history involved in that one area, that entertainment center of downtown Memphis. Good morning.
Good morning, and I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for having me at Channel 5 and the, of course, Memphis Renaissance Convention Center now, and Cannon Center for the Performing Arts, as we know it. But you talk about what's been there for 200 years. Is when we originally originated our city in 1819, it was one of the 4 original squares intended for public use. Exchange Square there at Front and Poplar and Main. And then as we got through the 19th century, our city grew to the 1900s and expanded out and had theaters and, you know, all sorts of entertainment areas, but not one big civic center. So a plan was started in 1912. And also, you know, with the westward expansion of our country during that time, Memphis grew about 100,000 people for 3 decades till 1930. So we're in a big building boom. But it took 12 years to get the building plan put together because of the World War I. But in 1924, on October 17th, it opened as the auditorium and market house. And the first general manager was Charles McElvery, who had a long history in public sector. And he was there as a general manager for over 27 years. And in 1924, he helped form the IAAM, International Association of Auditorium Managers, and there is a national award named for him 100 years later still in that program. And then 1930, Robert C. Ellis with the Chamber of Commerce, 1912, who had started that plan, he passed away, and they named it Ellis Auditorium, and it had a 72-year life there till 1996. So that kind of gets you up to 1996, and of course, there's a whole lot of events in between in those years we can talk about, and then get us to the now of Cannon Center and Renaissance Bank. Yeah.
I love it. I love it, Jimmy. Some of my most favorite moments of history is the local history, wherever I am, you know, and hearing the local history of Memphis. I mean, Memphis is so rich in its history. Tell me about, when I hear Ellis Auditorium, I hear about unbelievable concerts and events over the years and decades that it was there. I mean, just stars, worldwide stars that came to perform there, right?
Yeah, just the very opening was John Philip Sousa, you know, the March King, and we're probably still the only city that plays John Philip Sousa twice a day in the public sector, and that's the King Cotton March at the Peabody Hotel for the Ducks every day. But that was a great opening, the very talented John Philip Sousa, and we had opera singers and orchestras like from Paris and all around the country, big bands coming across that would play at the Skyway Room as a stop between New York and Los Angeles in the 1930s and 40s. And Mr. McElvery said his longest standing tenant was for 2 weeks in the 1930s when they were used as flood relief for the 1937 flood. For over 57,000 refugees had come into the area. But you get on to World War II and then big band. And in the 1950s, here comes the WDIA Goodwill Review. And of course, Elvis has gotten big during that time. And he and B.B. King met for that great picture there on stage that Dr. Withers took back in 1956. And then wrestling came in a big way and helped desegregate our public arenas at the Ellis Auditorium in late 50s and 60s with Sputnik Monroe. And you get into the 1970s with Jimi Hendrix and Bob Dylan and David Bowie, all these young performers coming through there in that era on up into the 1980s. And then this time, that building, and the Coliseum had opened in 64, Mud Island Amphitheater in 82, and they were taking some of the shows. And it was time to get a new building, and that happened with the Cannon Center in the early 2000s. You know, the Bob and Kitty Cannon made a big gift there for the naming rights. And so that's where I got into the modern era. Those are some of the shows. You know, I saw a University of Memphis, or at the time, Memphis State basketball game down there between the two halls. Saw the circus down there in the 60s, you know. So many events, there's too many to name. And in the 80s, the whole building had the Wonder series. The Ramsey's a great, Catherine in some of those series. So we've had some great events, not only in the performance halls, but in the exhibit halls in the building.
I love it. I love it. Jimmy, you're just rattling it off, man, right off the top. I love that stuff.
Well,
So tell me, Jimmy, we have this 100th anniversary celebration. Tell me what that's all about.
well, there's just had to be an Ellis Auditorium for its longevity of 72 years. Think about this. The Coliseum lasted 42 years and the Pyramid 13 years, and now FedEx Forum 20 years. So you add those three up combined, didn't last as long for our city as the auditorium did. That's a pretty impressive stat for auditorium legacy. And now Cannon Center, 25 years after that, almost 30, and the Renaissance Center that last year had over 400 events and 100,000 room nights and a $60 million+ economic impact of a lot of people coming into the city and local people using it. So we're trying to celebrate all that. Normally I talk about 30 years of history in 100 minutes. Now I got to talk about 100 years of history in 30 minutes, like I'm talking fast right now. I'll try to slow up. But the event is next Friday, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Cannon Center. That's Friday, October 11th. It's a free event to the public, and it'll be about a 30-minute presentation like this. And I'm going to rattle off a whole lot of pictures and posters and things about some of the exciting events that occurred there. People will have great memories, and I'm sure at the reception afterwards in the lobby, there will be a lot of people talking about their favorite memories, high school graduations, all sorts of little things, charity shows, trade shows, even, the Memphis Farm, the Mid-South Farm and Gin shows come there for many years, AutoZone, Church of God in Christ, the Blues Award. The Memphis Symphony Orchestra has their home there at Cannon Center on the stage. That is just some really signature things to say about the longevity of this building for 100 years.
No question about it. And yeah, I mean, the Heart Ball, Jimmy Ogle, I was fortunate enough to MC the Heart Ball last year there, the 100th anniversary, the guest speaker, the one and only Fred Smith. So yeah, it's certainly home to a lot of events over the years,
Yes.
over the decades, for sure. And if people want to go October 11th, they can go free of charge, right? This is a free event.
Yes, sir, that is correct. As I understand, it's a free event. It's in the Cannon Center, so come in that side of the building there at the Poplar main entry, and you'll be directed into the seating area of the Cannon Center. It holds 2,000 people now. I don't think we'll have 2,000 people, but we'll have a good show and a good time and celebrate entertainment in a city that's provided just groundbreaking entertainment over the last century to the world. Our global reputation with music in particular. So. We'll be celebrating that, and actually at the reception there'll be some folks from the Memphis Symphony Orchestra playing some in the lobby too, as well.
That
and I
is.
think there might be a tasting as well. So.
Oh, okay, excellent.
Yeah. You need to be there,
that's-
Andrew.
I know.
I want to see you. You're so tall.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Final thing, Jimmy, when you were doing some research about that area and Ellis Auditorium and Cannon Center and everything else down there, was there one moment or one factoid that you thought, wow, I bet you not many people know about this?
Oh, God, there's about 30 of those. I think it was a real big discovery for me as well. And I think the signature event, well, I guess about the original general manager, Mr. McElberry, who was there for 27 years and was forced into retirement by his age, but had for all these years. In fact, the big wow moment was this. I found out earlier this year, in 100 years of that building being there in his career and the sales managers around, there is a national award named for a Memphian that I didn't know about. And that's one thing we're going to celebrate too and recognize him as well. Of all the great people that provide entertainment, from the Bob Kellys and people like Kevin Kane with the Tourism Bureau and and Fred Jones and all these folks that have come through with shows and in the years that I've been involved with in my public life, that was the one that really wowed me for the tourism and hospitality industry, which is really a vibrant. It's the second biggest industry in our city right now with transportation. And no, it's the third. Transportation and distribution is number one, medicines and hospitals number two, and tourism is number three. It's a very vibrant industry, and this building is a key to all that.
No question about it. Jimmy Ogle,
I'm not
love
frowning.
hearing you speak.
I'm just happy about it. My frown.
Yeah.
You know.
No.
I
I
can't wait
love
to see
hearing you
everybody.
speak, and I love hearing the Memphis history. I'm so fascinated by it. I know it's going to be an amazing night, October 11th there, downtown Memphis.
It is.
Appreciate you coming on the digital desk, and take care of yourself.
Yes, sir. I love the digital desk. Thank you so much.
Me too. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk on this Thursday morning. A beautiful day expected across the area yet again. We've got a stellar stretch here really over the next several days across the Mid-South, and some changes, ups and downs for you across the region over the next few days as well. Here's a live look outside from the perspective of our temperatures for today. Temperatures back to the lower 80s we go through the afternoon hours. Tonight we'll drop back down into the 50s. Mostly clear. The northern lights, a possibility here tonight. Under clear skies, yeah, it's a possibility. Let's talk about that for a second because, again, if you remember back in May, we had a fantastic showing of the northern lights here across the Mid-South. Tonight's show may be a little bit more dim. Here's the forecasted aurora for tonight, which a K index of about 8.5. That is not bad. That will do the deed with the potential for seeing the aurora, at least for some parts of the Mid-South, on the horizon. You'll be able to see it with no additional age. You'll be able to see it the farther north that you go, especially. The farther south that you are, you may have to use the photographic stuff on your phone, maybe be able to take those long exposure photographs and be able to show it right there in your hand. But needless to say, you know, space forecasting is a little bit different than terrestrial forecasting because, again, we're waiting on seeing how the sun is trying to output a storm and, of course, make its travels to our ionosphere to make that happen. So it is kind of a quirky thing. We will be watching how it plays out here the next couple of hours, but eventually it will move into the area or at least into the skies. The question mark: how strong will it be? If it's a little stronger, we have a higher chance of seeing that. If it's a little lower, though, the potential for us to see it may be more of a dud. And obviously, after tonight, the potential goes down to almost nil to be able to see it here in the Mid-South. But just so you know, if it were to happen, you just look off to the north, away from light pollution as much as you possibly can. And it doesn't seem like this is going to happen like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. This may happen right after sunset tonight and continue through the early morning hours. So you may be able to just walk outside like 8 or 9 o'clock and look to the north and be able to see it versus than having to wake up early or stay up late to be able to see it. Muggy meter back into the weather department. Fairly low for us over the next couple of days, so comfortable air still in place, even though we're seeing the temperatures creeping up slowly but surely. But a gradual warming trend will also help to facilitate the muggier air filtering into the area. Will trim warmer the next couple of days with temperatures back up into the lower to middle 80s. By the time we head towards your Thursday as well as Friday, Saturday and Sunday, middle and upper 80s before that cold front comes sweeping through the region, and that will usher in a big blast of cooler air by the time we head towards next week. In the meantime, though, again, it's the warmer air that we're going to be talking about the next couple of days. Back to the middle 80s, as I mentioned, as we head towards your Saturday, Sunday, into the upper 80s. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if we see a few spots trying to make a run for 90 degrees. Of course, our Memphis Tigers are going to be in Tampa. That is going to be seen how that plays out. The rescheduled game Saturday at Raymond James Stadium, 2:30 in the afternoon against South Florida. Obviously, they just had a hurricane go through there. So it's going to be ultimately how things play out as far as damage is concerned, power, all those things to see if we actually get a game going here on Saturday. And of course, we'll keep an eye on Memphis Athletics to let you know about that. But as far as the forecast is concerned for Saturday, right now it looks fantastic. Lots of sunshine mixing in with a couple of clouds, temperatures in the 80s during the course of the game. Again, that game rescheduled for Saturday at 2:30, Memphis Tigers and the South Florida Bulls. As far as our forecast is concerned, again, we can see that upward trend. I think our muggiest day will be on Sunday. It's not going to even be to the same extent as it was on last weekend. That next cold front comes sweeping through the area Sunday into Monday. Now, I will say that there has been some back and forth on the timing of the front, and that may have some indication ultimately of how the temperature plays out on Monday. We may have to nudge the numbers up if it's a little bit more delayed, or nudge them down if it's a little bit quicker. But delayed or denied, it doesn't matter. I don't think we're going to be denied here on this cold front. Most indications have us getting way cooler heading into Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Highs in the 60s, lows in the 40s. And if we're calling for 44 here in the city of Memphis, more than likely in the outlying areas, probably going to have some sprinkled in upper 30s that could lead up to some patchy areas of frost. Not completely out of the realm of possibility. A gradual warming trend puts us back into the 70s next week. I will also mention there could be an isolated shower Sunday or Monday as that front sweeps on through here. But even with that being said, those chances are going to be pretty slim. And to be honest with you, the next 7 to 10 days does not look to feature
Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Taylor Tucker in for Andrew Douglas. We have a great interview lined up for you right now. This morning, we're talking about protecting seniors from scams. Get this stat that I read. Crimes against seniors totaled more than $3.4 billion in losses this past year, with more than 100,000 complaints were filed by people over the age of 60 in 2023. That's an 11% increase from the previous year. So this is a very important topic. And joining us to discuss the common senior scams, how to identify them, and how to protect yourself from those scams is Chad White, the Executive VP at Brookdale Senior Living. Good morning to you, Chad.
Good morning, Taylor. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thanks so much for joining us on the Digital Desk. Let's just jump right into it, because scams, we all hate them, and there's so many to discuss. But tell me, what are the few most common scams that you see often that target seniors?
Well, Taylor, there are several different kinds that are pretty common. One of the first is relationship or scams that they're based on a relationship or some sort of close connection potentially to a victim. So in that case, one of the most common scenarios is someone calls, they're pulling on your heartstrings, they're exploiting loneliness potentially, but they're trying to say that maybe you've got a family member who's in trouble and needs some support. That's a pretty common one. Another common one is phishing or identity theft scams. This is where a very common variety of that is where you have a situation where a vendor sends an email, purported vendor, somebody that you usually do business with, and says you haven't paid, or you need to submit payment information, and they're asking you to click on a link or open an attachment in an email. That can typically be something that's causing identity theft because they want your credit card information or other personally sensitive information. Another one is non-payment calls or visits. This time of year, when it's really hot outside, a lot of seniors get visits from people pretending to be from the utility company. They may actually be wearing clothes that looks like their local utility provider. They may come from a phone call and a phone number that is spoofing that information. And what they're trying to do is demand that you pay the bill immediately or that your services get cut off. So all of these are very common. The relationship scams are probably sort of one of the most common ones. You see it from where someone adopts an online identity, a fake identity, and they reach out via social media or a dating site or something like that, develop a relationship, and then ultimately ask for money. Say they have an emergency expense or need something like that. And all they're trying to do is scam a senior out of their hard-earned savings.
That's unfortunate. And I know you only listed 3, but there are so many scams that you could probably spend the entire day talking about. How can we spot a scam, though?
Well, there's some clear signs. One of the most clear signs that you may be being scammed is if someone demands money urgently or immediately. If they tell you that you need to act now, Taylor, or you can't, or don't tell a loved one, don't tell a friend, that's a very clear sign that you may be scammed. Another sign is if someone threatens to go to the authorities. If you don't take action and do what they're requesting, submit money, make a payment, etc., that may be a clear sign. One other one that I think is when they ask you to wire money, particularly if they ask you to wire money overseas or pay something through an unusual payment system such as a gift card or cryptocurrency or something like that. If you get that, that's a clear warning sign that something may be amiss.
Yeah, even when you take those steps, I always like when we have interviews like this, is it possible to avoid scams altogether?
Well, it's probably, it may not be possible to avoid them altogether because they're coming all the time, but there are some things you can do to help protect yourself or to protect your loved ones. And so one of the first things I would say, Taylor, is to be cautious. Take time to research or verify the situation. If you get one of these calls with a loved one, for example, who's claiming that they need money, they may claim to be your granddaughter or grandson or niece or nephew, and they say they need money for a bill or something like that, take time to find out what's going on. You need to verify that. I would take their number, call back, tell them you'll call them back, and then actually call them back on the number that you know is their number. Verify that it's there, or call a loved one in that case. There are some other things that I would say are very important to do, particularly as it relates to identity theft. Never click on a link or an attachment in an unsolicited email or text message even. They're getting very sophisticated these days. The emails will look like they're coming from somebody that you do business with, but don't click on those links. Go directly to the website or call their customer service number directly if you think there's an issue that you need to deal with a vendor.
Great advice there. Educating yourself is definitely the first step. Tell us a little bit about Brookdale, how you help educate your residents and those families who you work with closely. How do you educate them on this?
Well, it's really important to us, Taylor. We at Brookdale, our mission is to enrich lives, and so we want to provide as many resources as we can to help protect our seniors and their loved ones and help them avoid becoming a victim of these types of scams. And so we do a number of things. One, certain of our communities bring in experts, whether it be experts in finance or security, who provide information and up-to-date information to our residents and their family members. We also, because of our size and scale, have a lot of resources we can provide either through email communications or blogs on our website or through other means like that, community newsletters. It's really important to make sure people are up to date on these things because prevention is the most important way to stop these scams.
Absolutely, Chad. A lot of great advice there. Last question for you. If we want to learn more, for those watching at home, they want to educate themselves, where can they go online to learn more information?
Well, I'd encourage your viewers to visit our website, brookdale.com. We have a lot of great information on there, additional stuff on how to protect yourself from scams, other good tips, and also links to some important sites like the FBI where there's a lot of additional information. It's really important for seniors and family members and those who love their seniors to stay up to date and informed. So I'd encourage them to visit the brookdale.com website.
All right, again, that was Chad White with Brookdale Senior Living. Chad, was there anything else that you wanted to add that I did not ask you today?
I would just say the most important thing is just to be very, very aware and cautious. Try to do what you can. I'd say another tip that's probably important is never wire money. If you get an unsolicited email or phone call, don't wire money, particularly if they're asking you to wire it overseas. Just be very cautious. If someone's asking you for money or for your personal information, you need to protect that as much as you can.
All righty, that was Chad White. Thanks so much for stopping by the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We look forward to chatting with you again. See you, Chad.
Thanks, Taylor.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. There are more cancer survivors today than ever before, and their needs begin from the date of diagnosis throughout their lifespan. The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society hears firsthand every day from patients, from family members, caregivers, volunteers affected by blood cancer with their concerns and questions about a diagnosis, treatment, and much, much more. But I want to talk about how they are not alone. None of them are. Joining me now is Tricia Hernandez. She is Director of Community Engagement with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Good morning, Tricia. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about some of the support and resources that are so valuable for everyone that has been diagnosed with leukemia and lymphoma, including those caregivers and the family members. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here during Blood Cancer Awareness Month. From my own experience, when I was first diagnosed, I went where most of us go to look for information about something we don't know. I went to the internet, and I was completely overwhelmed and received a lot of information about statistics. And I really left that experience with a lot of fear and concern about what was next for me. And what I've learned through LLS and working with patients and caregivers every day is having a reliable, valid source of information for disease, treatment, and ongoing survivorship is really key. And LLS can provide that to patients and caregivers. And I think what patients leave with when they have that kind of information and support is more hope and less fear than I experienced.
Tell me about some of the most common challenges that people experience when they have leukemia and lymphoma.
I think initially it's really just not sure about what's going to happen next and not having information about the disease. It can sometimes come as a surprise, the diagnosis to patients and caregivers, and they're not sure what that means and how it's going to be handled and how to talk to their healthcare team about it. And LLS has education information that helps people better understand their disease and their treatment options, and even information about how to talk to their healthcare team, family members, and friends about it, as well as education information for healthcare teams to talk to their patients about it. And that first piece of really better understanding what's going on with you helps you manage it more effectively and really be less fearful about the unknown. But after that, it's practical concerns. How am I financially going to manage this? Am I going to be able to continue going to work and school? How am I going to take care of my family? Will they need to take care of me? Am I going to be a burden on them? And even longer term, how am I going to deal with this for the rest of my life? Is it going to affect me for the rest of my life? Am I going to have manage side effects forever with this? And if I have a chronic blood cancer, how will I manage going in and out of treatment for the rest of my life, and what that means. And LLS really has looked at understanding the full experience that blood cancer patients and caregivers go through, and provides resources for all of those things I just mentioned.
So, Tricia, we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here on the Action News 5 digital desk. If someone is hearing about this and perhaps they have a family member or a friend that's been diagnosed with leukemia or lymphoma, where should they begin?
They can begin with a simple phone call to an information specialist that will connect them to all the resources I've mentioned and more at 1-800-955-4572. And everything I've talked about is also available at lls.org.
And what would be your message? You're a blood cancer survivor yourself. You are a part of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. What would be your initial comments to them?
I would say make sure that you are taking care of yourself and getting regular checkups and blood work done. If something feels wrong, go to your doctor and talk to them about it, and be very confident in leaving that, knowing what's going on with you. And then if it does ultimately end up that you have a blood cancer diagnosis, your first stop can be the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and one of our information specialists is glad to support you in better understanding your diagnosis and treatment options, and really helping you connect to support services for everything from understanding your disease, connecting with someone who's a peer who may have been through that already, and into survivorship and managing the rest of your life as a blood cancer survivor.
Tricia Hernandez, we appreciate you coming on the digital desk. Thank you for an important discussion that needed to be had with regards to this issue, leukemia, lymphoma, the support, and what people need to do if they're diagnosed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 digital desk. We are always looking for ways to strengthen our mental health and have optimal health mentally, certainly for you and for your family, whether it's you're at work, at school, at home, living your life. Let's talk about ways that we can enhance our mental health right now. I'm joined by Renee Dillard. She is Director of Community Behavioral Health at Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. And Renee, good morning to you. Welcome back to the digital desk. Let's talk a little bit about where we should begin when it comes to having better mental health. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. It's good to be back with you. Today, October 10th, is World Mental Health Day. This is an international day for global mental health education, awareness, and an opportunity to decrease stigma related to mental illness and mental health concerns. The theme for this year's World Mental Health Day is focused on prioritizing mental health in the workplace. A large portion of the work that I do with Methodist Healthcare is as an employee assistance professional. So my work is very much focused on both the worker and the workplace. So I especially appreciate the theme for this year's World Day focused on mental health. A supportive work environment can actually be a protective factor related to mental health. So a supportive work environment can actually help us foster good mental health. Another factor related to work that helps with our mental health and emotional well-being is having a sense of purpose and meaning in the work that we do. I have the joy of working with a lot of healthcare professionals through Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. Also, I have the opportunity to work with educators, with other nonprofit leaders and frontline workers, with business professionals, with government employees. And across the board here in our community, we have so many people engaged in purposeful and meaningful work. And when we can stay tied to that value in the work that we're doing, when we can stay tied to that sense of meaning and purpose, that actually helps foster resilience in our work life and even our life beyond work. And that resiliency can help us manage the reality of stressors and demands that will, of course, also always be present.
You know, we've come out of the pandemic a while ago, and there was so much of an emphasis on mental health and so much of a concern about bettering our mental health and having optimal mental health. Are there things that people can do at home, not just for them, but for their spouse and perhaps their children and others, where they can start to live a better life with better mental health?
Yes, absolutely. And I do think that one of the unanticipated really gifts of our pandemic experience is that it did reveal a greater awareness and understanding connected with mental health, and a greater opportunity for us to learn and grow and understand ourselves better and also people around us. There are many things we can do as individuals to foster our own mental health and well-being. A basic one really to begin with is to identify and really incorporate into our lives some basic stress management strategies. We know that stress is a reality of life, and for the most part, we manage that well. And yet when stressors begin to accumulate on us, or we have an acute stressor in our life, it can be really difficult to manage that. So the more we practice and foster these interventions for ourselves, and that could be a deep breathing practice. It could be taking a daily walk. It could be making sure that we are getting the right amount of sleep at night. It could be remembering to connect with experiences of joy and wonder in our life. And when we are intentional about these really small practices in our life on the regular, it really does help us build a firm foundation so that we are ready to face whatever comes our way. One other really important factor that we can all do is be intentional about building good, strong relationships in our lives. People we have mutual support with, we can depend on them, they can depend on us. So that when we need those relationships, we already have a trusted friend or a family member or a colleague or a supervisor or a mental health professional in our life, so that we know where to go to and how to connect when we need it the most.
That sounds so great, having those good, strong relationships, taking a walk, getting some fresh air, important amounts of sleep, being intentional about it. Where do you think, Renee, where people make missteps, make mistakes, trying to better their mental health, but they fall in some traps along the way?
I think the one of the main things, and this really comes from a good place, I think initially. I know in our community, a lot of those professions I named a moment ago, we all tend to be really hardwired to take care of other people. And we tend to really have that as a focus in our life, and that is a good and beautiful focus, necessary. And yet when we are pouring ourselves out for others and we forget to pay attention to our own mental, emotional, physical, holistic health needs, then it's hard for us to show up in a way that is healthy and sustainable. So I think the really one primary invitation or encouragement that I would offer today is to deepen that own awareness, to check in with ourselves. What do I notice that I'm thinking lately? Can I put language or words to what I'm feeling? Have I noticed a change in my behaviors? Am I noticing that I'm carrying stress in my body a little differently? Is it changing? Am I not breathing deeply? Do I have a lot of muscle tension? Because those stressors can add up and affect not only our mental health, but our physical health as well.
I remember the last time we spoke, Renee, you mentioned how important having that spiritual mindset in your life is so valuable to your mental well-being. Can you talk a little bit about that in regards to better mental health?
Oh, yes, that is a topic near and dear to my heart. And I think what we know intuitively to be true, there's a lot of research now to back up that whether it is connection with a religious community and a faith life with a group of people, or a spiritual connection in a broader sense, those deep connections with something greater than ourselves helps us to be more centered, more grounded. There's some built-in relationship connections there, and helps us to remember that we're not alone. Sometimes we can, when we do come upon a really stressful season of life, whether it's grief and loss or some other change in our life, we can feel really alone in that experience. And so relationships within a faith community or a spiritual practice in our life can help us remember that we are not alone and that we are really in this together.
Anything else before we let you go, Renee? This has been another powerful interview and very easy ways that people can understand how to get better mental health in their life, in all facets of their day-to-day life. Is there perhaps a place where we can go online and maybe look at some of the things we talked about?
I would encourage anyone listening who either you or someone in your household is employed by any company or organization to check and see if you have an employee assistance program or EAP benefit. EAP is a great resource, again, for the worker and the workplace, and built into that benefit is typically a counseling, mental health counseling benefit, and also some other work-life resources that can help us stay centered and grounded.
Renee Dillard, Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare Community Director of Behavioral Health. Really appreciate this conversation. I know it benefited the people that are listening right now. Thanks so much for coming on once again to the Digital Desk. We appreciate your next visit.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Another live look from our High Five camera outside downtown Memphis. Beautiful shot there. 59 degrees at 8:40. Let's talk about your forecast in 1 minute.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk on this Thursday morning. A beautiful day expected across the area yet again. We've got a stellar stretch here really over the next several days across the Mid-South, and some changes, ups and downs for you across the region over the next few days as well. Here's a live look outside from the perspective of our temperatures for today. Temperatures back to the lower 80s we go through the afternoon hours. Tonight we'll drop back down into the 50s. Mostly clear. The northern lights, a possibility here tonight. Under clear skies, yeah, it's a possibility. Let's talk about that for a second because, again, if you remember back in May, we had a fantastic showing of the northern lights here across the Mid-South. Tonight's show may be a little bit more dim. Here's the forecasted aurora for tonight, which a K index of about 8.5. That is not bad. That will do the deed, with the potential for seeing the aurora, at least for some parts of the Mid-South, on the horizon. You'll be able to see it with no additional aid. You'll be able to see it the farther north that you go, especially. The farther south that you are, you may have to use the photographic stuff on your phone, maybe be able to take those long exposure photographs and be able to show it right there in your hand. But needless to say, space forecasting is a little bit different than terrestrial forecasting, because again, we're waiting on seeing how the sun is trying to output a storm and of course make its travels to our ionosphere to make that happen. So it is kind of a quirky thing. We will be watching how it plays out here the next couple of hours, but eventually it will move into the area, or at least into the skies. The question mark: how strong will it be? If it's a little stronger, we have a higher chance of seeing that. If it's a little lower, though, the potential for us to see it may be more of a dud. And obviously after tonight, the potential goes down to almost nil to be able to see it here in the Mid-South. But just so you know, if it were to happen, you just look off to the north, away from light pollution as much as you possibly can. And it doesn't seem like this is going to happen like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. This may happen right after sunset tonight and continue through the early morning hours. So you may be able to just walk outside like 8 or 9 o'clock and look to the north and be able to see it, versus then having to wake up early or stay up late to be able to see it. Muggy meter back into the weather department, fairly low for us over the next couple of days, so comfortable air still in place, even though we're seeing the temperatures creeping up slowly but surely. But a gradual warming trend will also help to facilitate the muggier air filtering into the area. Will trim warmer the next couple of days, with temperatures back up into the lower to middle 80s. By the time we head towards your Thursday as well as Friday, Saturday and Sunday, middle and upper 80s before that cold front comes sweeping through the region, and that will usher in a big blast of cooler air by the time we head towards next week. In the meantime, though, again, it's the warmer air that we're going to be talking about the next couple of days. Back to the middle 80s, as I mentioned, as we head towards your Saturday, Sunday, into the upper 80s. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if we see a few spots trying to make a run for 90 degrees. Of course, our Memphis Tigers are going to be in Tampa. That is going to be seen how that plays out. The rescheduled game Saturday at Raymond James Stadium, 2:30 in the afternoon against South Florida. Obviously, they just had a hurricane go through there. So it's going to be ultimately how things play out as far as damage is concerned, power, all those things, to see if we actually get a game going here on Saturday. And of course, we'll keep an eye on Memphis Athletics to let you know about that. But as far as the forecast is concerned for Saturday, right now it looks fantastic. Lots of sunshine mixing in with a couple of clouds, temperatures in the 80s during the course of the game. Again, that game rescheduled for Saturday at 2:30, Memphis Tigers and the South Florida Bulls. As far as our forecast is concerned, again, we continue that upward trend. I think our muggiest day will be on Sunday. It's not going to even be to the same extent as it was on last weekend. That next cold front comes sweeping through the area Sunday into Monday. Now, I will say that there has been some back and forth on the timing of the front, and that may have some indication ultimately of how the temperature plays out on Monday. We may have to nudge the numbers up if it's a little bit more delayed, or nudge them down if it's a little bit quicker. But delayed or denied, it doesn't matter. I don't think we're going to be denied here on this cold front. Most indications have us getting way cooler heading into Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Highs in the 60s, lows in the 40s. And if we're calling for 44 here in the city of Memphis, more than likely in the outlying areas, probably going to have some sprinkled in upper 30s that could lead up to some patchy areas of frost. Not completely out of the realm of possibility. A gradual warming trend puts us back into the 70s next week. I will also mention there could be an isolated shower Sunday or Monday as that front sweeps on through here. But even with that being said, those chances are going to be pretty slim. And to be honest with you, the next 7 to 10 days does not look to feature very much in the way of appreciable rainfall. It may be after this forecast, going into the 12 to 14 day period, that we could see our first opportunity for rain coming back into the fold. So by that point in time, we'll be needing the rainfall coming back here across the Mid-South. But the next couple of days, warming trend before the big cool down heading into next week. So you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, highs of 65. That's more akin to early November.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Concussions, boy, they happen every day. In fact, 5 million people go to the emergency department for a traumatic brain injury. And if left untreated, concussions can lead to serious long-term health effects. They can happen to anyone, and 14 million people ages 65 and over fall each year from common accidents that could lead to discussion. So let's talk a little bit more about this topic with a couple of people that are joining us on the digital desk. Chris Devlantes is a practicing ER physician, senior medical director at Abbott's Point of Care Diagnostic Business, and Catherine Cameron, senior director at the National Council on Aging, joining us on the digital desk. So good morning to you both. Let's talk about some of the most important signs and symptoms that everybody should recognize when it comes to concussions. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew.
Doctor, let's begin with you.
So thanks, because concussions are a really important topic. As you mentioned, we see them in the emergency room about every 15 minutes. There'll be a concussion that occurs in the U.S. And the signs and symptoms vary. Everyone thinks of these as sports-related injuries, but actually more than half of them happen from simple falls. The signs vary depending on the type of injury. It can be delayed. It can be headaches, trouble with your vision, trouble with concentration, insomnia, vomiting, dizziness, all kinds of symptoms. Some of these happen right away. Sometimes they happen later after they had the injury occur. So it's really important to recognize the signs and symptoms and to seek medical attention right away.
Catherine, over to you. A lot of people think of concussions, they think of athletes, they think young people, but concussions often happen to older adults. Tell me more about some of the issues and the problems when it comes to people maybe over the age of 60, 65 and concussions.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, falls actually are the leading cause of injuries among people over the age of 65. And about 1 in 4 older adults will experience a fall every year, and about 20% of those will have some type of serious and life-threatening injury like a concussion. And concussions really impact the quality of life for older adults. In fact, recent data shows that people over the age of 75 have the highest rates and numbers of hospitalizations and deaths associated with concussions. So it's a very serious circumstance for many older adults. They can result in a stroke, mental health changes, memory changes, cognitive changes. So our message is, take falls very seriously. Falls are not a normal part of aging. And we know that there are many things that we can do to prevent falls. And we can talk a lot about what those things are in just a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. But Chris, I want to go back over to you and talk specifically about maybe those signs and symptoms that people should watch for every day if they think perhaps the possibility of a concussion.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, the signs and symptoms are really important to watch for, and sometimes they come on right away, sometimes they come on later. The important thing to do is remember to go get checked out. Headaches can be ongoing. 17% of people that suffer concussion are unemployed a year after their brain injury. So these things are not insignificant. It's important to recognize if you're not feeling right, if you're not acting right, if you're having trouble with your memory, trouble with your balance, vomiting, sometimes depression, fatigue. The symptoms are variable and they're very vague, so a lot of people brush it off and don't get checked. And we see this a lot in the common public. General falls, it's not the Titans fan, it's not the player on the field that comes into my emergency room that we're seeing for concussions as often as it is the public. It's the Titans fan in the living room tripping over the rug on their way to the kitchen to get a snack during the commercial break, or people tailgating out in the parking lot. So remember to get checked out. The symptoms may happen right away. They may come on later, but be evaluated in the emergency department. If you're not sure, get it checked out.
Catherine, let's talk about maybe resources and steps that we can all take to make sure that our loved one who's a little bit older has a decrease in the chances of falling in our home and in our area.
Yeah, there are so many things that older adults and their caregivers can do to prevent a fall. We really feel that older adults have the power to prevent a fall. And we believe there are 6, sort of simple steps that people can start with to reduce that risk for falling. The first is to have a conversation with your doctor about falls. And because doctors can actually assess that risk and provide recommendations on things that can happen to reduce that risk. Next is to get good exercise that includes strength building, improving balance, and flexibility. Those are 3 really important things that we all need to do to reduce our risk for falls. Also, making our homes as safe as possible. Most falls actually happen in the home, and there are simple things that we can do, like improving lighting, making sure that our homes are clutter-free, removing those trip hazards like cords and rugs, things like that, and installing grab bars in our bathrooms because bathrooms have hard surfaces, and that's where we see a lot of concussions actually happen. I'm a pharmacist, and I recommend every older adult get their medications reviewed at least once a year because side effects of medications can increase the risk for falling. We also recommend vision and hearing checks every year. And in addition, ask for help from family members, friends, because there are many things that people can do to help you, like making some of those changes in the home that I talked about.
Okay, finally, I leave it open to both of you. Any lasting recommendations, ideas, tips that we haven't talked about that you guys would like to say right now?
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, it's really important to remember to get checked out. And as Kathy mentioned, there are people that are higher at risk, especially in the older populations around blood thinners. Many times we have to do a CAT scan to make sure there's no serious injury to the brain, bleeding in the brain, bleeding around the brain. Don't delay care. We now even have a blood test available in many emergency rooms where we can actually determine whether a CAT scan is even needed, because the majority of the time the CAT scan is normal, but there's still a brain injury that's occurred. So my take-home message is, when in doubt, check it out.
In addition, there are a couple of great resources available for older adults. One is concussionawarenessnow.org to learn about concussions. In addition, the National Council on Aging has a lot of resources on falls prevention, including the Falls Free Checkup, which is a simple 13-question survey that you can take to learn about your personal risk for falls. And you can find that at ncoa.org/falls.
Chris and Catherine, appreciate your time on a very important discussion here on the Digital Desk. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk on this Thursday morning. A beautiful day expected across the area yet again. We've got a stellar stretch here really over the next several days across the Mid-South, and some changes, ups and downs for you across the region over the next few days as well. Here's a live look outside from the perspective of our temperatures for today. Temperatures back to the lower 80s we go through the afternoon hours. Tonight we'll drop back down into the 50s. Mostly clear. The northern lights, a possibility here tonight. Under clear skies, yeah, it's a possibility. Let's talk about that for a second because, again, if you remember back in May, we had a fantastic showing of the northern lights here across the Mid-South. Tonight's show may be a little bit more dim. Here's the forecasted aurora for tonight, which a K index of about 8.5. That is not bad. That will do the deed, with the potential for seeing the aurora, at least for some parts of the Mid-South, on the horizon. You'll be able to see it with no additional aid. You'll be able to see it the farther north that you go, especially. The farther south that you are, you may have to use the photographic stuff on your phone, maybe be able to take those long exposure photographs and be able to show it right there in your hand. But needless to say, you know, space forecasting is a little bit different than terrestrial forecasting, because again, we're waiting on seeing how the sun is trying to output a storm and of course make its travels to our ionosphere to make that happen. So it is kind of a quirky thing. We will be watching how it plays out here the next couple of hours, but eventually it will move into the area, or at least into the skies. The question mark: how strong will it be? If it's a little stronger, we have a higher chance of seeing that. If it's a little lower, though, the potential for us to see it may be more of a dud. And obviously after tonight, the potential goes down to almost nil to be able to see it here in the Mid-South. But just so you know, if it were to happen, you just look off to the north, away from light pollution as much as you possibly can. And it doesn't seem like this is going to happen like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. This may happen like right after sunset tonight and continue through the early morning hours. So you may be able to just walk outside like 8 or 9 o'clock and look to the north and be able to see it, versus then having to wake up early or stay up late to be able to see it. Muggy meter back into the weather department, fairly low for us over the next couple of days, so comfortable air still in place, even though we're seeing the temperatures creeping up slowly but surely. But a gradual warming trend will also help to facilitate the muggier air filtering into the area. Will trim warmer the next couple of days, with temperatures back up into the lower to middle 80s. By the time we head towards your Thursday as well as Friday, Saturday and Sunday, middle and upper 80s before that cold front comes sweeping through the region, and that will usher in a big blast of cooler air by the time we head towards next week. In the meantime, though, again, it's the warmer air that we're going to be talking about the next couple of days. Back to the middle 80s, as I mentioned, as we head towards your Saturday, Sunday, into the upper 80s. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if we see a few spots trying to make a run for 90 degrees. Of course, our Memphis Tigers are going to be in Tampa. That is going to be seen how that plays out. The rescheduled game Saturday at Raymond James Stadium, 2:30 in the afternoon against South Florida. Obviously, they just had a hurricane go through there. So it's going to be ultimately how things play out as far as damage is concerned, power, all those things, to see if we actually get a game going here on Saturday. And of course, we'll keep an eye on Memphis Athletics to let you know about that. But as far as the forecast is concerned for Saturday, right now it looks fantastic. Lots of sunshine mixing in with a couple of clouds, temperatures in the 80s during the course of the game. Again, that game rescheduled for Saturday at 2:30, Memphis Tigers and the South Florida Bulls. As far as our forecast is concerned, again, we can see that upward trend. I think our muggiest day will be on Sunday. It's not going to even be to the same extent as it was on last weekend. That next cold front comes sweeping through the area Sunday into Monday. Now, I will say that there has been some back and forth on the timing of the front, and that may have some indication ultimately of how the temperature plays out on Monday. We may have to nudge the numbers up if it's a little bit more delayed, or nudge them down if it's a little bit quicker. But delayed or denied, it doesn't matter. I don't think we're going to be denied here on this cold front. Most indications have us getting way cooler heading into Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Highs in the 60s, lows in the 40s. And if we're calling for 44 here in the city of Memphis, more than likely in the outlying areas, probably going to have some sprinkled in upper 30s that could lead up to some patchy areas of frost. Not completely out of the realm of possibility. A gradual warming trend puts us back into the 70s next week. I will also mention there could be an isolated shower Sunday or Monday as that front sweeps on through here. But even with that being said, those chances are going to be pretty slim. And to be honest with you, the next 7 to 10 days does not look to feature very much in the way of appreciable rainfall. It may be after this forecast, going into the 12 to 14 day period, that we could see our first opportunity for rain coming back into the fold. So by that point in time, we'll be needing the rainfall coming back here across the Mid-South. But the next couple of days, warming trend before the big cool down heading into next week. So you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, highs of 65. That's more akin to early November.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. There is so many amazing support programs out there for so many Mid-Southerners. Memphis, Mid-South, we have an incredible medical community, and we have an incredible medical community just for pregnant mothers. In fact, there are so many different support resources and so many different websites and call centers that people can go when they are pregnant to get any kind of information that they need. And one of the biggest support resources are midwives. And what exactly do they do, and how do they support pregnant women? I'm joined right now by the Director of Midwifery Services at Regional One Health, Bria Loft, joining us on the digital desk now. Bria, good morning to you. Can you really kind of explain to our audience what midwives do to support pregnant mothers?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. Nurse midwifery is very unique in the fact that we are both medically trained and also trained to support socially and kind of the whole woman during pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period. We are all trained at accredited universities. I, for instance, went to Vanderbilt. I have a master's from Vanderbilt in nurse midwifery. And then I also have a doctorate from University of Alabama. So we're very trained to know the medical parts of preparing a woman for birth, doing all the prenatal care, knowing when we need to refer out to a higher level of care. But we also believe in physiologic birth and shared decision making. So it's a great marrying of two kind of perspectives to support that woman to getting that birth that she desires.
Can you talk about the difference between a midwife and an OBGYN?
Okay, so a doctor, of course, has a longer educational period because they're getting trained in not only outpatient clinical things, obstetrics, gynecology, but they're also being trained to do births and to do all kinds of surgeries and upper level diagnostic services for women. So it's a completely different frame of reference. The thing about OBGYNs and nurse midwives, we work very well together as a team. That's what we do at Regional One. I have a great group of attending physicians that we work very closely with on the labor hall, in the office, that we run things by each other. They will ask us about birth because we're birth experts, right? And we will refer to them when we have something more complicated where the woman needs a higher level of care. So it's a great thing to go together in a group, which Regional One has recognized, which I'm very grateful for, and it makes a great environment for birth.
What do you hear your patients say when they are asked, and some of the reasons why they chose to have a midwife during pregnancy?
Some things that I hear is they want to have more time spent with them in their office visits, and we're given that time that they need to discuss preparation for birth, answering questions completely, making them feel like they're heard. Our doctors are good at doing that too, but that's where I hear maybe from their experience from another birth they've had or another pregnancy they've had, they felt like they didn't have any say in their testing, in the way they give birth, different preferences. They were rushed. So I feel like that is one of the main things I hear is, you listen to me. I've never had anybody listen to me and really value my opinion as the patient giving birth.
So some questions, where can a midwife deliver a baby, and can the mom have an epidural? A lot of those questions come up often.
Very common questions that I get. This is your birth, so you can have any sort of pain management that you want. It is not, you can still birth with a midwife, have an epidural. We can support you in a non-medicated birth. But what we do support all the time is mom's choices. We give medical recommendations, but at the end of the day, that shared decision-making model that we're so good at, that mother and her partner can decide what's best for them. Now, in Memphis or across the United States, 90% of all nurse midwifery births are done in the hospital, but there is an 8% of births that are done in a birth center. And then about less than 2%, about 2% are done at home by a certified nurse midwife. And so there's a lot of different levels of choices. For Regional 1, our midwifery group is all hospital birth. So we make it our mission to help that woman and her family to have a great delivery, even in the hospital setting. Trying to be high touch, low intervention support of that natural, that normal process of physiologic birth.
Bria, let me ask you, if someone's interested in having a midwife during pregnancy, what questions should they ask, and when should they consider having their first appointment or meeting?
We have a lot of patients that will come for a midwifery consultation even before they're pregnant. So you could call, this is just in our area, you could call our scheduling line, which is 515-5500, and get a consultation appointment. You can ask questions like, what does it look like to birth with a midwife? We can talk about what kind of birth you want, even if you're not pregnant and you're planning to be pregnant. That can be very helpful. We also can do your yearly gynecology exam. So we can do that well woman exam, and we can do birth control for you until you're ready to have a baby. So there's a lot of different things that midwives do that don't involve birth.
If someone wants to go online and learn more about midwifery, is there a place on Regional 1's website?
There is. You can go on the Regional 1 website and put midwives in that search bar, and you can see our part of the website. You can also go to acnm.org. That helps you find a midwife in your area. If you're several hours outside of Memphis and you want to find something closer to you, that can help you and give you a lot of information, including myths about midwifery, like you can't have a epidural, those things that you asked, and also just general information of things that we can do for you as a patient.
Bria Loff, I think this has been very informative for our audience. We appreciate your time on the Digital Desk. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, another live look from our High Five camera here in downtown Memphis as we go to break. 64 degrees, 11 minutes after 9 o'clock. More Action News 5's Digital Desk right after this. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. There is a seminar that is happening on the University of Memphis campus, a small business seminar that I want to talk to you about with our next guest. I'm joined right now by Nick Pappas, Executive Director of Procurement and Contract Services at the University of Memphis. Nick, good morning to you. Let's talk a little bit about this small business seminar. I think the title is How to Do Business. Tell me all about it. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Thank you for having me this morning. I'm really excited to be part of your show. The seminar that we are putting together this coming Wednesday is part of a broader strategy that we have at the University of Memphis to further improve our engagement with our local business community, and specifically focusing on small and minority-owned businesses. So the seminar will take place on Wednesday from 9 to 12. From 8 to 9, we're going to have registration and breakfast, and then we're going to go into the actual seminar. And it has really a couple of very specific objectives. The first one is to help people understand how to do business with us, with the University of Memphis, that is. In some ways, it feels like a very difficult task to accomplish. It's a big institution, sometimes appears to be overly complex. So our objective will be to demystify that process and help them understand that with appropriate guidance and engagement, and really getting connected with us is not difficult. The other part of that, the other objective, is to help them understand the actual opportunities we have. What are the key opportunity areas for them? And then have a discussion with key leaders within our team that will help them understand even further those specific areas and what do they mean, what are the requirements they have, because every area is a little different. So that setting will give them an opportunity to, again, get deeper into the areas that they might have an interest in and capabilities to really provide services for us. So it will be an ongoing dialogue, if you will, real time, so they will be able to answer questions, ask questions, get input from us. And really, when they walk away, the objective that we have is to feel that they have a very productive day that really helps them set up, if you will, that connection and be able to be part of our portfolio of providers. So I'm going to stop here and ask any other specific questions you might have that help them kind of understand what is that we're doing this coming Wednesday.
Gotcha, Nick. So let me ask you this. Is this more for those small businesses? Is it more for students who would like to open their own small business? Or is it kind of for both?
Great question. This particular event is focusing on small and minority-owned businesses here in our metro area. This is not going to be a one-time event. This is part, as I mentioned, of a strategy that we're putting in place to help grow that particular segment in our business and triple it, if you will, by 2026, triple the spend that we have currently in that particular space by 2026. And another piece we'd like to work on, and we have now put in place, is really working on how do we keep our talent here in the Memphis area. A lot of times we have great talent that goes elsewhere. So by providing them the right opportunities, the likelihood of them staying here is definitely higher. So it's part of our strategy, if you will. This particular event is focusing on just the local minority businesses here in the metro area, but there will be other events that we are planning to have in place that will focus on different segments, different groups. Again, as part of a broader strategy to increase our engagement with the local community and the talent that we grow here at the University of Memphis.
I understand completely, Nick. Thank you. So when you say that this is, not a single event, this is going to be part of a series of events on campus, are we talking about something that's once a month, once a quarter? What can you tell me?
Right now, we're looking at a quarterly event. So that will be, and that gives us time to prepare, engage the appropriate resources, plan the event properly. So when they come, when they join us, they get the full impact, if you will, and the full benefit from this particular engagement. And again, they walk away with the tools they need to be able to immediately become more engaged and effective working with us.
Wonderful. Okay. Anything else you wanted to mention before we let you go, Nick, about this event, about the seminars in the future? Anything else before we let you go?
Absolutely. Another thing I would like to mention is the partnerships that we're putting in place with other agencies in the area, including the city of Memphis. We're working with them to make sure that we collaborate and we benefit from each other's experience, expertise. The city provides a lot of tools, if you will, for small businesses to grow, develop their own businesses, really getting the certifications that we need to have in place. So all of that is accessible to them, and I'd like to emphasize the fact, one fact that is important for small businesses, and that is the fact that it's of no cost to them. So they get access to a lot of great insights to benefit themselves and their business without having to make an additional investment. The other part I would like to mention, as part of this particular seminar, we're going to include, if you will, participants that will help them understand how to raise capital, how to really be able to become more savvy, if you will, running their business, and be able to really get access to channels that perhaps in the past they have difficulty either connecting with or being accepted by. So they're going to be part of our seminar. They're going to be there providing that particular insight and guidance, and also answering questions that they might have that really is going to help them become again more effective in what they're doing currently.
How to do business, open doors to the procurement process. This seminar set for October 9th on the University of Memphis campus. Nick Pappas, Executive Director of Procurement and Contract Services. We appreciate your time on the Digital Desk. Good luck with this seminar, and please come on any other time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. The issue of domestic violence has so many devastating effects on individuals, on families, and communities. The Family Safety Center in Memphis offers all kinds of support and resources to victims while at the same time advocating for safety and justice. I'm joined right now by Martha Jackson Cole. She is with the Family Safety Center here in Memphis. Martha, I appreciate you joining us here. So first and foremost, tell us some of the things that you and the organization does to help some of those victims of domestic violence in our community. Good morning.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you. And thank you for having me this morning. Just a little bit about the Family Safety Center. We are a nationally recognized model. We are considered to be a family justice center, and there are 13 family justice centers across the state of Tennessee. We were the second to open in the state, so that's a pretty big deal. When this initiative kind of came across as a presidential mandate, Memphis was the second to actually get a facility of this kind of degree. And so at the Family Justice Center, we are considered to be a one-stop shop. So that means that if a person had experienced domestic violence, they could come to this particular place and receive all the services that they would need to get to a place of safety. So in our building, and we're located at 1750 Madison Avenue, Suite 600, you will find law enforcement on site. The DA's office is on site. We have services for orders of protection. We have our navigation department that will assist with orders of protection. We have an elder abuse department. We have legal aid. We have wraparound services if individuals would need jobs. We have housing. We have our lethality assessment. And so the list goes on and on and on. So if you can kind of tell from what I'm sharing, that if a person were to experience domestic violence and they made a call to us or they showed up at our office, we would be able to assist them from the jump with the services that they would need to get to a place of safety.
It is a blessing to have this kind of center, this kind of resource here in Memphis and the Mid-South for everybody that is affected by domestic violence. And it really knows no boundaries, no socioeconomic boundaries. It affects all groups and all families and all communities. What can the public do to support the Family Safety Center and the work that you do there?
So we understand that the issue of domestic violence and just violence as a whole and eradicating it is aspirational, right? And so it's a big picture idea. But the thought is that if we can bring about awareness, if people understand that these things happen, and in terms of domestic violence, specifically intimate partner domestic violence, these things happen behind closed doors, and it happens between people who share a greater connection than some of us can ever know. And so when these things happen, it causes a lot of chaos, and it causes disruptions to the family. And we just want to make sure that people understand that there are services available. There have been countless times that I speak to people just out and about in the grocery store, and the question comes up as to where do you work or what do you do? And I say the Family Safety Center, and they are always kind of perplexed. And it was like, what is the Family Safety Center? And so to me, that shows a great need for awareness on this particular issue, because in the city of Memphis and in the county, in Shelby County, we are an organization that supports this type of initiative, and we want people to know that there are services available. Just to give you a little bit of, I guess, context to that, we see about 6,000 clients in a year's time. Our stats tell us for every person that we see or every allegation or report of domestic violence, 4 goes unreported. So if you look at those numbers, that means we should really see in our doors or in our building about 25,000 people a year. That's significant, right? And so we want to significantly reduce those numbers. And the only way that we know that we can reduce those numbers is to get the word out that domestic violence happens. And in the event that those things happen, there are people standing ready to service and provide help for you.
Martha, I got a question for you. What
Yes.
signs of domestic violence should people be aware of? And how can family and friends best support someone who might be in this abusive situation?
Well, I want to go on record sharing, just with everybody who's listening, that on average, it takes an individual who has made up their mind to seek help about 7 or 8 attempts before they finally leave. And just the idea that we're human, and sometimes we don't give a person who's experiencing domestic violence a lot of grace. We get fed up, and we're saying that this person won't leave. The biggest thing that we can do for this particular person is to believe them, right? When someone tells you that they're experiencing domestic violence, believe them. And then there are those obvious signs. With physical abuse, we can readily see if there's a bruise, a black eye, those kind of things. But emotional abuse and sexual abuse, all of the financial abuse, these things can go unrecognized. So we have to kind of look at some of those underlying signs. If the person seems to be depressed, or if they kind of withdraw, if they seem not to be themselves, if there is a need in terms of finances when there was once not a need. All of those things can indicate, especially if they are in a relationship that, it's kind of, seedy or kind of sketchy to families or to your friends or someone that you know. I often say that you have your gut for a reason, right? And if something doesn't feel right, more times than not, it's not right. And we say for those people who are the bystanders, you are, for an adult case in domestic violence, you are not a mandated reporter. Although we do want people, if everyone knows someone that's experiencing that, to, just share with the person that, there's help available. I see, what's happening or what's going on, and there are services available. You can seek the Family Safety Center. But also this idea is that, don't hop in and try to save someone in the throes of a domestic violence incident. If you're going to attempt to help, make sure that you can keep yourself safe as well as the victim safe, right? Because you don't want additional casualties or any of those things, to happen. But we say to believe the person, be sure that you equip yourself with knowledge and the resources that are available so that you can support a person who's experiencing domestic violence and, become somewhat of an ambassador for the work that we do and the services that we provide.
Is there a place online where our audience, and we have thousands of people who watch us each and every morning, where they can go and learn more about the Family Safety Center?
Absolutely. You can find information about the Family Safety Center at www.familysafetycenter.org. We have a 24-hour hotline. The number to dial is 901-800-6064. We do have office hours, and there's an additional number for that. That number is 901-222-4400. If you happen to call the hotline, again, I share that it's 24 hours. You will receive someone online to speak with directly. We have our lethality assessment advocates that will share and get you some help, to get you to a place of safety.
Martha Jackson Cole, we really appreciate everything that you do for us and for Memphis and the Mid-South at the Family Safety Center. Thank you so much for coming on the Digital Desk.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Explaining the resources and the support that you give to domestic violence victims everywhere.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Time to talk all things Overton Park Shell with our friend Shelby Smith. Joining us now on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. As always, lots going on, Shelby, and this time, once again, we have some amazing weather, don't we?
We are truly so lucky and so blessed to see a lot of great sunshine and a beautiful breeze outside. We're kicking things off actually tonight. It's not necessarily a part of our Orion Free Concert Series, but it is another amazing musical event that is brought to you by Music Export Memphis. What they do for local artists is so imperative. The resources that they provide for them to transport to other places to share their craft and just learn about the business of the music industry is so vital to our artists thriving in the city. And they are bringing the Tambourine Bash to the Overton Park Shell tonight. It starts at 7 o'clock, and it's truly a unique, one-of-a-kind experience where artists from varying genres get to come together for a very special performance where they are they're stepping out of the box. They're doing something a little different, and they're bringing their talents together to create this one-of-a-kind performance. So definitely come to check that out tonight. Again, it starts at 7 o'clock, and shout out to Music Export Memphis for all they do for our local artists. But then we're continuing the weekend, Friday and Saturday, completely packed, not just here at the Overton Park Shell, but our mobile Shell on Wheels will be activated. But I'll start off with Friday. Kevin Whalum is going to take the stage, a historical music or Memphian music artist. He is a jazz artist. I'm sure you are familiar with his brother, Kirk Whalum. They're really keeping the talents in their family. So we're super excited to have him on our historic stage. He is truly a jack of all trades. He's published a book. He is a preacher, a motivational speaker, and he's sharing his jazz talents here on our stage. So definitely come and check that out on Friday. Again, starts at 7 p.m. And then Saturday, we have the return of the Memphis Country Blues Festival. Ruthie Foster, an amazing blues, folk, gospel, kind of all-in-one artist. She will be kicking things off at 5:45. And then a one-of-a-kind returning act, the North Mississippi All-Stars. They've been on our stage before. Everybody loves them. We're super excited to bring them back, but they will be taking the stage at 7 o'clock. And again, we're here at the Overton Park Shell. We're super busy. So Shell on Wheels will also be at Paint Memphis, which if you haven't heard of that, numbers of local and national and international regional artists come together and they find a place in the city to, you know, beautify that space with a beautiful and wonderful mural, a piece of art that we get to look at long after they've kind of wrapped up their work. But that will be taking place, I believe, on the corner or the intersection of Lamar Avenue and Willett. So make sure to go see what they're going to do to make Memphis beautiful. I've been many years in the past, and it's just a really fun time.
And, you know, I would think, Shelby, with the weather and how amazing the weather has been, I mean, not only just, you know, not rain and dry temperatures, but also the fall temperatures giving a little cool, crisp aspect to the weather in the evenings. That's got to mean that people just want to be outside and enjoy it. And what better way than to go to the Overton Park Shell and enjoy some live music?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been struggling a bit with the rain this season. It's no lie, no doubt. Everybody knows that. But we have been blessed for the last few weekends in a row to just be able to gather on our lawn. And again, this is like they're only this weekend and next weekend. And then the Orion Free Concert Series wraps up for the season, and we won't be back until like I believe next summer. So this is truly one of your last few chances to come and experience some free live entertainment on the lawn. Now it is going to be a bit busy in the park, so definitely, you know, pack some patience, ride share, carpool if you can, because there are a number of events that are taking place in the park between us and the zoo and the Brooks Museum. So definitely just be aware and be prepared for, you know, parking and things like that. But regardless of where you go this weekend, it is a beautiful time to just be out in the city of Memphis. This is my favorite time of year to just explore and to live my life here.
Absolutely. Shelby Smith, we appreciate your time and everything that you and your staff does at the Overton Park Shell. Thanks so very much for coming on the Digital Desk and telling us about all the goodies happening over the next few days. We appreciate it.
Of course. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you do the same. Another live look from our High Five camera. Midtown Memphis, your forecast in 1 minute. Hey, Van, it's Andrew Douglas. I think it's on, let's see. So it is, okay, so if you're facing my house on the corner, it's to the left. I believe it's to the left of my house.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk on this Thursday morning. A beautiful day expected across the area yet again. We've got a stellar stretch here really over the next several days across the Mid-South, and some changes, ups and downs for you across the region over the next few days as well. Here's a live look outside from the perspective of our temperatures for today. Temperatures back to the lower 80s we go through the afternoon hours. Tonight we'll drop back down into the 50s. Mostly clear. The northern lights, a possibility here tonight. Under clear skies, yeah, it's a possibility. Let's talk about that for a second because, again, if you remember back in May, we had a fantastic showing of the northern lights here across the Mid-South. Tonight's show may be a little bit more dim. Here's the forecasted aurora for tonight, which a K index of about 8.5. That is not bad. That will do the deed, with the potential for seeing the aurora, at least for some parts of the Mid-South, on the horizon. You'll be able to see it with no additional age. You'll be able to see it the farther north that you go, especially. The farther south that you are, you may have to use the photographic stuff on your phone, maybe be able to take those long exposure photographs and be able to show it right there in your hand. But needless to say, you know, space forecasting is a little bit different than terrestrial forecasting, because again, we're waiting on seeing how the sun is trying to output a storm and of course make its travels to our ionosphere to make that happen. So it is kind of a quirky thing. We will be watching how it plays out here the next couple of hours, but eventually it will move into the area, or at least into the skies. The question mark, how strong will it be? If it's a little stronger, we have a higher chance of seeing that. If it's a little lower, though, the potential for us to see it may be more of a dud. And obviously after tonight, the potential goes down to almost nil to be able to see it here in the Mid-South. But just so you know, if it were to happen, you just look off to the north, away from light pollution as much as you possibly can. And it doesn't seem like this is going to happen like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. This may happen right after sunset tonight and continue through the early morning hours. So you may be able to just walk outside like 8 or 9 o'clock and look to the north and be able to see it, versus then having to wake up early or stay up late to be able to see it. Muggy meter back into the weather department. Fairly low for us over the next couple of days, so comfortable air still in place, even though we're seeing the temperatures creeping up slowly but surely. But a gradual warming trend will also help to facilitate the muggier air filtering into the area. Will trim warmer the next couple of days, with temperatures back up into the lower to middle 80s. By the time we head towards your Thursday as well as Friday, Saturday and Sunday, middle and upper 80s before that cold front comes sweeping through the region, and that will usher in a big blast of cooler air by the time we head towards next week. In the meantime, though, again, it's the warmer air that we're going to be talking about the next couple of days. Back to the middle 80s, as I mentioned, as we head towards your Saturday, Sunday, into the upper 80s. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if we see a few spots trying to make a run for 90 degrees. Of course, our Memphis Tigers are going to be in Tampa. That is going to be seen how that plays out. The rescheduled game Saturday at Raymond James Stadium, 2:30 in the afternoon against South Florida. Obviously, they just had a hurricane go through there. So it's going to be ultimately how things play out as far as damage is concerned, power, all those things, to see if we actually get a game going here on Saturday. And of course, we'll keep an eye on Memphis Athletics to let you know about that. But as far as the forecast is concerned for Saturday, right now it looks fantastic. Lots of sunshine mixing in with a couple of clouds, temperatures in the 80s during the course of the game. Again, that game rescheduled for Saturday at 2:30, Memphis Tigers and the South Florida Bulls. As far as our forecast is concerned, again, we can see that upward trend. I think our muggiest day will be on Sunday. It's not going to even be to the same extent as it was on last weekend. That next cold front comes sweeping through the area Sunday into Monday. Now, I will say that there has been some back and forth on the timing of the front, and that may have some indication ultimately of how the temperature plays out on Monday. We may have to nudge the numbers up if it's a little bit more delayed, or nudge them down if it's a little bit quicker. But delayed or denied, it doesn't matter. I don't think we're going to be denied here on this cold front. Most indications have us getting way cooler heading into Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Highs in the 60s, lows in the 40s. And if we're calling for 44 here in the city of Memphis, more than likely in the outlying areas, probably going to have some sprinkled in upper 30s that could lead up to some patchy areas of frost. Not completely out of the realm of possibility. A gradual warming trend puts us back into the 70s next week. I will also mention there could be an isolated shower Sunday or Monday as that front sweeps on through here. But even with that being said, those chances are going to be pretty slim. And to be honest with you, the next 7 to 10 days does not look to feature very much in the way of appreciable rainfall. It may be after this forecast, going into the 12 to 14 day period, that we could see our first opportunity for rain coming back into the fold. So by that point in time, we'll be needing the rainfall coming back here across the Mid-South. But the next couple of days, warming trend before the big cool down heading into next week. So you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, highs of 65. That's more akin to early November.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. On this Breast Cancer Awareness Month, there is a fight for accessible Medicare for women with disabilities. My next guest is going to talk to me about this issue. Tammy Jones is a U.S. Air Force veteran. She's also a PVA National Senior Vice President. Good morning, Ms. Jones. First, tell me, what is PVA? What does that stand for?
PVA is Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Okay, so so tell me your personal journey and this issue of accessible medical care for women with disabilities.
Yes, sir. In 1986, I had a car accident that left me a C5 quadriplegic, and since then, you know, our medical access to medical health care is been very challenging. You know, for especially in the aspect of women's health care. The challenges we run into are being able to access a building. You know, when we get to the facility, is there a ramp for us to get in the front door? Is there a power door opener? And then once we're in, is the treatment room or the exam room accessible? You know, can I get my wheelchair in there? Can my caregiver join me in there? You know, does the table go low enough for a transfer to happen? Those are some of the challenges that we face over the years for accessing women's health care.
I appreciate you sharing your story and your personal experiences. So, so tell me about PVA's new campaign. I understand there's a new campaign aimed at bringing awareness and shedding a light on these ongoing issues.
Yes, yes, we are very proud to be joined by Ms. Hannah Storm for our campaign to educate the medical community, to help them understand the challenges that we face. The challenges such as, you know, accessible facilities, accessible equipment, staff that is trained and wants to work with us to make sure that we're getting the best treatment available. We also want to empower women with disabilities to speak up and say, enough is enough. You know, I deserve the same health care as any other woman. So help us, you know, get to that health care.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, for me, it seems like a no-brainer. Of course. I mean, it shouldn't matter whether you're disabled or not. You should get quality, affordable health care. If someone's watching,
Yes.
and we have thousands of people who watch us, Tammy, what can they do to help you?
We would love for folks to join us at pva.org. There's a petition that we have there to sign that petition and help us educate the medical community. Stand with us, fight this fight with us to have access to the health care that we need to live our lives. You know, it could be, you know, it could be your mom, it could be your grandma, it could be your aunt, it could be your daughter. We want to make sure that everybody has access to the health care that they need when they need it.
Are there any misconceptions out there with regards to this topic? I mean, people, you know, can think different things and you have to set them straight. What are those misconceptions, if there are any?
Well, misconceptions can be that, you know, that everything's accessible, that the ADA covers all of this. Well, you know, that misconception needs to be fixed from the perspective of that we, you know, the education, you know, we need to educate the medical community that the access needs to be there. You know, just because you have a ramp doesn't mean that the exam room is going to be accessible.
Got it. Again, one more time,
Yeah.
the website where people can go and learn more information about this.
Yes, pva.org. And that's where you can find the petition to help us, to join us in this fight for accessible health care for everyone.
Well, Tammy Jones, I appreciate you sharing with us this brand new campaign, and we appreciate your time on the Digital Desk.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk on this Thursday morning. A beautiful day expected across the area yet again. We've got a stellar stretch here really over the next several days across the Mid-South, and some changes, ups and downs for you across the region over the next few days as well. Here's a live look outside from the perspective of our temperatures for today. Temperatures back to the lower 80s we go through the afternoon hours. Tonight we'll drop back down into the 50s. Mostly clear. The northern lights, a possibility here tonight. Under clear skies, yeah, it's a possibility. Let's talk about that for a second because, again, if you remember back in May, we had a fantastic showing of the northern lights here across the Mid-South. Tonight's show may be a little bit more dim. Here's the forecasted aurora for tonight, which a K index of about 8.5. That is not bad. That will do the deed with the potential for seeing the aurora, at least for some parts of the Mid-South, on the horizon. You'll be able to see it with no additional age. You'll be able to see it the farther north that you go, especially. The farther south that you are, you may have to use the photographic stuff on your phone, maybe be able to take those long exposure photographs and be able to show it right there in your hand. But needless to say, you know, space forecasting is a little bit different than terrestrial forecasting because, again, we're waiting on seeing how the sun is trying to output a storm and, of course, make its travels to our ionosphere to make that happen. So it is kind of a quirky thing. We will be watching how it plays out here the next couple of hours, but eventually it will move into the area or at least into the skies. The question mark: how strong will it be? If it's a little stronger, we have a higher chance of seeing that. If it's a little lower, though, the potential for us to see it may be more of a dud. And obviously, after tonight, the potential goes down to almost nil to be able to see it here in the Mid-South. But just so you know, if it were to happen, you just look off to the north, away from light pollution as much as you possibly can. And it doesn't seem like this is going to happen like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. This may happen right after sunset tonight and continue through the early morning hours. So you may be able to just walk outside like 8 or 9 o'clock and look to the north and be able to see it versus then having to wake up early or stay up late to be able to see it. Muggy meter back into the weather department. Fairly low for us over the next couple of days, so comfortable air still in place, even though we're seeing the temperatures creeping up slowly but surely. But a gradual warming trend will also help to facilitate the muggier air filtering into the area. Will trim warmer the next couple of days with temperatures back up into the lower to middle 80s. By the time we head towards your Thursday as well as Friday, Saturday and Sunday, middle and upper 80s before that cold front comes sweeping through the region, and that will usher in a big blast of cooler air by the time we head towards next week. In the meantime, though, again, it's the warmer air that we're going to be talking about the next couple of days. Back to the middle 80s, as I mentioned, as we head towards your Saturday, Sunday, into the upper 80s. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if we see a few spots trying to make a run for 90 degrees. Of course, our Memphis Tigers are going to be in Tampa. That is going to be seen how that plays out. The rescheduled game Saturday at Raymond James Stadium, 2:30 in the afternoon against South Florida. Obviously, they just had a hurricane go through there. So it's going to be ultimately how things play out as far as damage is concerned, power, all those things to see if we actually get a game going here on Saturday. And of course, we'll keep an eye on Memphis Athletics to let you know about that. But as far as the forecast is concerned for Saturday, right now it looks fantastic. Lots of sunshine mixing in with a couple of clouds, temperatures in the 80s during the course of the game. Again, that game rescheduled for Saturday at 2:30, Memphis Tigers and the South Florida Bulls. As far as our forecast is concerned, again, we can see that upward trend. I think our muggiest day will be on Sunday. It's not going to even be to the same extent as it was on last weekend. That next cold front comes sweeping through the area Sunday into Monday. Now, I will say that there has been some back and forth on the timing of the front, and that may have some indication ultimately of how the temperature plays out on Monday. We may have to nudge the numbers up if it's a little bit more delayed, or nudge them down if it's a little bit quicker. But delayed or denied, it doesn't matter. I don't think we're going to be denied here on this cold front. Most indications have us getting way cooler heading into Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Highs in the 60s, lows in the 40s. And if we're calling for 44 here in the city of and Memphis. More than likely in the outlying areas, probably going to have some sprinkled in upper 30s that could lead up to some patchy areas of frost. Not completely out of the realm of possibility. A gradual warming trend puts us back into the 70s next week. I will also mention there could be an isolated shower Sunday or Monday as that front sweeps on through here. But even with that being said, those chances are going to be pretty slim. And to be honest with you, the next 7 to 10 days does not look to feature very much in the way of appreciable rainfall. It may be after this forecast, going into the 12 to 14 day period, that we could see our first opportunity for rain coming back into the fold. So by that point in time, we'll be needing the rainfall coming back here across the Mid-South. But the next couple of days, warming trend before the big cool down heading into next week. So you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, highs of 65. That's more akin to early November.
Morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. So last week, if you were following the business news, the big business news of the week was that the Fed slashed interest rates by 0.5 point. What does that mean to the average Memphian, Mid-Southerner? What should we do? Should we save more money? Should we go out and buy things, a new car or a new house? A lot of people are wondering, what does this mean? Well, let's bring in someone to talk about this very issue. I'm joined right now by Chris Evans. He's Vice President of Southern Serenity Federal Credit Union. Chris, thanks for joining us on the Digital Desk. So where do we begin when we tell the average Memphian, this is what you should do, or this is what it means for you when the interest rates are cut by 0.5 point? What do we tell them? Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Yeah, it's a great time for borrowers. With the Fed funds rate dropping by 0.5%, that likely means lower payments for borrowers that have home equity lines of credit. It could be lower payments for people with credit cards. As that interest rate drops, those payments will drop, and that should start for most people in November.
Okay, so when we say a half percentage point cut, what does that translate to when it comes to all the interest rates that we all deal with? Our car loan, our credit card loan, the loan on our house.
Yes, so with credit cards and home equity lines of credit, many of those are tied directly to that Fed funds rate. So you could see a direct 0.5% drop. With things like auto loans, usually not a direct correlation to that 0.5%, but auto loan rates you will see come down as well. Mortgages are tied more toward a longer rate. The Fed funds rate is an overnight rate, but mortgage rates have been dropping, as a lot of us have seen over this past year. So those are coming down as well.
All right, so for the average Memphian that's out there, and we have thousands of people that join us each and every morning here on the Digital Desk, what do we tell them? Is this a good time to save money, buy stuff? What do you think?
Well, unfortunately, the other side for the savers is these rates are coming down. So the 5% certificate rates that a lot of our savers were seeing, those are kind of more in the 4s now. And lower 4s. But great news for the borrowers, those rates are coming down, and they're even projected to come down further. So the Fed, the FOMC is projected to lower that Fed funds rate by an additional 0.5% by year end, and then an additional full percent in 2025. So it's getting to be a better time to buy, and it looks like in the future it's even becoming even better for borrowers to get things like vehicles, purchase your vehicle, home equity lines of credit. So if you're putting a pool in or renovating your home, um, and certainly credit cards as well. Much needed relief.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Chris, let me ask you this, because a lot of people are like, okay, I get it, but I'm not going to buy a new house or a new car anytime soon. What about gas? What about groceries? Because we know inflation has been killing so many average Memphians out there. Will it affect that?
Unfortunately, it's not going to affect inflation or affect inflation. Actually, it's kind of a byproduct of inflation. So as inflation is coming down, the FOMC is seeing that, and they're reducing these very restrictive rates that we have in place. They're punishing a lot of us that are borrowing. So it's not going to necessarily decrease inflation. But like I mentioned, for folks that are carrying balances on credit cards, there'll be less interest tacked on to your credit card at the end of every month as these rates continue to drop. And for a lot of us that have these home equity lines of credit, those payments, interest-only payments, are going to be dropping starting with that November payment. So that's where maybe you have a little bit more money in your pocket at the end of the month to spend money on things like groceries and gas.
I appreciate you spelling it out for us. So, final question is really open to you. Anything else you want to mention that the public you think should know about with regards to this 0.5% interest rate cut?
It's just a great time to go to your local credit union, certainly Southern Security Federal Credit Union, and get an auto loan rate or any sort of borrowing that you're looking at doing. Now, over the next 12 to 15 months, we're going to get some much needed relief. So we have more information on our website, southernsecurity.org. Welcome to go there and click the Contact Us page, and we'll be happy to go over in depth further about what these rate cuts can mean for you.
Okay, Chris Evans, Southern Security Federal Credit Union, joining us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We appreciate your time, and thanks for spelling it out in a very easy to understand way, Chris. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
All right. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. If you eat seafood, you play a part in keeping our oceans healthy and thriving by selecting what's called sustainable seafood. Wherever you buy it, you see those things, maybe little logos on packages, sustainable seafood. Well, now is the perfect time to put it in the spotlight on the health of our oceans and the role played by sustainable seafood. So what's the difference between seafood and sustainable seafood, and why is it so important? Why does it matter? Let's bring in someone to talk about this very issue right now, joined by Teresa Ish, oceans and environment expert with the Walton Family Foundation. Let's talk about what exactly, Teresa, sustainable seafood is and why it matters. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, October is National Seafood Month, so it is a really great time to consider and think about what it means to eat sustainably. I think for a lot of us, when we think about who produces our food, an image of a farmer on a tractor comes to mind, but fishermen are a vital part of our food system. And so whether you live on the coast or 1,000 miles from the nearest beach, the seafood that you choose matters. And when you choose sustainable seafood, you're choosing to support a healthy ocean and responsible fishermen. When we talk about sustainable seafood, what we mean is finding this balance between protecting ocean health and also feeding a growing population that is increasingly reliant on the ocean for food. And by protecting the ocean, we hope to help people and nature thrive together.
So tell me exactly what sustainable seafood means.
Sustainable seafood is about the practices that fishermen are using to catch the fish. It's about the management that the government and the oversight that the government is putting over the fishery to ensure that the right amount of fish is coming out without damaging the ecosystem. And it's about the science that goes into understanding how our ocean is changing and how resilient it is to the fishing pressure. And when these three things come together, the ocean is really amazingly resilient, and fish populations can improve, and they can continue to provide vital nutrients for the world and important jobs and livelihoods for communities along the coast.
So let's talk about some tips for consumers out there when they're shopping and looking for sustainable seafood.
Well, around the world, when you eat chicken, you eat one species of chicken. There are 2,500 different kinds of seafood we eat, and this diversity really means that no matter what your flavor profiles that you like, your budget, there is a sustainable seafood out there for you. And fortunately, when you go to the grocery store, most grocery stores have sustainable seafood. You mentioned in the lead-in that there are certifications and logos that you can look for, and that's a great way to know that an external body has looked at the science and the health of that fishery and verified that it's sustainable. If you go to your favorite grocery store or restaurant and there are no labels, ask what they're doing to protect the health of the ocean and support fishing communities. Most grocery stores in the United States have made commitments to buy and sell sustainable seafood. They should have that information for you at the fish counter.
What is non-sustainable seafood? Just so we're understanding exactly what this is all about.
Unsustainable seafood often comes from fisheries that aren't regulated. There are fishermen sometimes who are taking out more than they're allowed to take, and this harms the ocean. It harms the surrounding ecosystems. It harms other animals that are not necessarily targeted for fishing, like dolphins and turtles. And so by managing fisheries for sustainability, we really use that regenerative power of the ocean to recover the fish stocks that we like to eat, which in turn supports all of the other parts of the ecosystem that are really important for ocean health. So sustainable seafood tends to use fishing gears that are lower impact on the ocean, and also supports the fishermen themselves who are doing the work. So it's both environmentally and socially responsible.
Where can we get more information for the thousands of people that watch us each and every morning on the Digital Desk to know the differences between sustainable seafood and not sustainable seafood, and just learn more about how important this relationship is?
There's more information on sustainable seafood and its impact on the ocean at waltonfamilyfoundation.org.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. With cold and flu season upon us once again, it's so important to make sure we are protected as possible from some of these respiratory viruses that will no doubt wreak havoc on many people this year. Let's bring in someone to talk about it. I believe I'm joined now by Dr. Deanna Tran. She is a clinical pharmacist. She is also a trainer for the American Pharmacists Association, and she is getting all mic'd up. Dr. Deanna Tran, can you hear me right now? You are live on the Action News 5 digital desk with, I believe, some information about vaccines and what to expect this cold and flu season. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's hear it. What's the latest?
So I would recommend that you get your seasonal flu and COVID-19 vaccines. So those are our yearly seasonal vaccines. And if you have not already gotten your RSV or respiratory syncytial virus vaccine, you would also be recommended to get that one as well.
How does somebody know what vaccines they should get or should not get? Because there's a lot of people that, you know, as we're coming out of the pandemic and COVID, there's some people that are steadfast. We're not getting a COVID shot. There's no more of that. But there's other vaccines that they could do with cold and flu season. So how do people know which vaccines to get?
That is a great question. So I would recommend that you talk with your local pharmacist. You know, actually, about 85% of vaccines across the nation are given by someone in the pharmacy. So I would recommend talking with them so that way they know your specific conditions and what vaccines are best recommended for you. And you hit on something that's really important that I also want to add is that, you know, it is sometimes because of all these seasonal vaccines and specifically with COVID-19, we can get really frustrated or tired of all these different vaccines that are recommended for you. And they're good. They're good to keep you safe and protected. So I kind of think of it like an update, right? So we get updates on our phone all the time, and I never hesitate hitting that button to update the security on my phone. And that's the same thing here with getting your vaccines. You want to protect yourself against viruses and stay up to date. So it's really important to make sure you get those vaccines, especially our yearly respiratory vaccines.
What about populations considered high risk? What are those populations, and should those people make vaccines a priority?
Yes, absolutely. Those people, including those with heart and lung conditions, so specifically like COPD or asthma, as well as those who are immunocompromised, so those who have cancer, for example, or those who are taking medications where they are more susceptible to illnesses, those specific individuals, I would highly encourage them to get their vaccines because they are more susceptible to illnesses. So it's really important to stay protected because all vaccines, the most important thing they do is to, in case you get exposed to some of these illnesses, it will reduce the severity of the illness, so you'll get less symptoms and hopefully help you stay out of the hospital.
Where can patients go for more information? Just perusing various vaccines, availabilities, high risk, that sort of thing.
I would actually recommend going back to your local pharmacist. You know, October is also American Pharmacist Month. So it's a great time to get a connection, relationship with your local pharmacists, who are those trusted resources and experts to get your vaccines, and also to help answer your medication-related problems.
Okay, Dr. Deanna Tran, a clinical pharmacist and also a trainer for the American Pharmacists Association. We appreciate your time. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. There is a new study that's out from the nonprofit, the National Endowment for Financial Education, and it finds that 74% of borrowers with student loan balances have had to make some budgetary changes in order to make their payments. All right, so let's bring in someone to talk more about this issue, this survey. I'm joined now by Dr. Bill Hensley, President and CEO of the National Endowment for Financial Education, the group that did this new survey. So, Mr. Hensley, tell me more about this survey. Good morning.
Good morning. Sure. Last October, when the repayment pause ended, we explored what borrowers believed or expected would be the impact on their finances. So, excuse me, here we are a year later. We know the reality of how borrowers are managing their loans, and this is no small number. Over a quarter of the population currently have an outstanding loan, or someone close to them, such as a child or grandchild, has a loan. And the news is both positive and concerning. The positive side being the majority are saying they are doing okay, at least for right now. Keep in mind that nearly 20% may not have had to make payments yet, and 27% say the end of that repayment pause has negatively impacted their financial lives, which is lower than the 49% who were anticipating this last fall. So that's a bit of a silver lining here. The more troubling news is what you mentioned, that monthly budgets have been strained, with 3 in 4 making cuts. 28% cutting up to $500, and another 21% having to cut as much as $1,000 a month out of their budget.
So let me play devil's advocate for a minute, Billy, because it took about 10 years for me to pay back my student loans. It's just part of the process. There's a lot of people out there that says, hey, look, this is a rite of passage. You take out loans, you have to pay it back a certain way, and you have to fit in your budget wherever you are. Where am I wrong on this?
Well, we all have a different journey here. And what the data show is that most borrowers actually have been able to keep up with the payments since the end of the pause. So they're able to, make headway in making those payments, with 56% having made at least a few and 46% having made most or every payment. And I was with you in that boat. I had student loans myself, and it took me actually much longer than 10 years to pay those off. But what we know here is that people are stretched more. Inflation has risen significantly. The cost of housing has risen significantly. So that pinch that borrowers are feeling is very acute. And depending on where you live, it's going to be felt stronger than in other locations.
Okay. All right. I'm with you so far. So how do we lessen that burden for the borrowers out there, or how can they lessen the burden?
Well, if you're already out of school, look at the repayment plans that are available to you. We all want you to advocate for yourself. 50% of borrowers are saying that the lenders or the student loan servicers have had positive or good communication. So advocate for yourself. Find out what is the right repayment plan that's right for you. If you are not yet finished college, or if you have a loved one that's in school now or thinking about higher education, or if you're working and thinking about going back and getting that credential that you need, educate yourself. Financial education in particular really improves borrowing. People borrow less. They are less likely to borrow private loans for higher education. And when they finish, they have a 21% less likelihood to have credit card debt. So if you're launching into your career with lower debt, it will make those monthly budgets stretch a little more.
Is it advantageous to maybe perhaps take out a small personal loan in order to pay it back, or just kind of follow the normal payments?
Right. Well, the first part of that, I would say that every person has to fully explore their options that are right for them. But always start with studentaid.gov and look at the secured loans that are provided through the Department of Education. A lot of those are subsidized, meaning you won't have to pay interest on any of those loans while you're in school or while you're in deferment. So make sure you qualify for that first. And the difference is if it's a private loan, and if there's some new program that lowers balances or lowers payments or gives some level of forgiveness, private loans will not qualify for those. Only those that are through the U.S. Department of Education.
Anything else you want to mention with regards to this topic before we let you go?
Well, it's front of mind for many people. And there's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of people trying to take every dollar they can from you. So advocate for yourself, protect your information, directly seek the resources from places like studentaid.gov. And if something is too good to be true or it costs to expedite anything, then stay away from that.
Okay, Billy Hensley, National Endowment for Financial Education. We appreciate your time on the Digital Desk. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk on this Thursday morning. A beautiful day expected across the area yet again. We've got a stellar stretch here really over the next several days across the Mid-South, and some changes, ups and downs for you across the region over the next few days as well. Here's a live look outside from the perspective of our temperatures for today. Temperatures back to the lower 80s we go through the afternoon hours. Tonight we'll drop back down into the 50s. Mostly clear. The northern lights, a possibility here tonight. Under clear skies, yeah, it's a possibility. Let's talk about that for a second because, again, if you remember back in May, we had a fantastic showing of the northern lights here across the Mid-South. Tonight's show may be a little bit more dim. Here's the forecasted aurora for tonight, which a K index of about 8.5. That is not bad. That will do the deed with the potential for seeing the aurora, at least for some parts of the Mid-South, on the horizon. You'll be able to see it with no additional age. You'll be able to see it the farther north that you go, especially. The farther south that you are, you may have to use the photographic stuff on your phone, maybe be able to take those long exposure photographs and be able to show it right there in your hand. But needless to say, space forecasting is a little bit different than terrestrial forecasting because, again, we're waiting on seeing how the sun is trying to output a storm and, of course, make its travels to our ionosphere to make that happen. So it is kind of a quirky thing. We will be watching how it plays out here the next couple of hours, but eventually it will move into the area or at least into the skies. The question mark: how strong will it be? If it's a little stronger, we have a higher chance of seeing that. If it's a little lower, though, the potential for us to see it may be more of a dud. And obviously, after tonight, the potential goes down to almost nil to be able to see it here in the Mid-South. But just so you know, if it were to happen, you just look off to the north, away from light pollution as much as you possibly can. And it doesn't seem like this is going to happen like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. This may happen right after sunset tonight and continue through the early morning hours. So you may be able to just walk outside like 8 or 9 o'clock and look to the north and be able to see it versus then having to wake up early or stay up late to be able to see it. Muggy Meter back into the weather department. fairly low for us over the next couple of days, so comfortable air still in place, even though we're seeing the temperatures creeping up slowly but surely. But a gradual warming trend will also help to facilitate the muggier air filtering into the area. We'll trim warmer the next couple of days with temperatures back up into the lower to middle 80s. By the time we head towards your Thursday as well as Friday, Saturday and Sunday, middle and upper 80s before that cold front comes sweeping through the region, and that will usher in a big blast of cooler air by the time we head towards next week. In the meantime, though, again, it's the warmer air that we're going to be talking about the next couple of days. Back to the middle 80s, as I mentioned, as we head towards your Saturday, Sunday, into the upper 80s. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if we see a few spots trying to make a run for 90 degrees. Of course, our Memphis Tigers are going to be in Tampa. That is going to be seen how that plays out. The rescheduled game Saturday at Raymond James Stadium, 2:30 in the afternoon against South Florida. Obviously, they just had a hurricane go through there. So it's going to be ultimately how things play out as far as damage is concerned, power, all those things to see if we actually get a game going here on Saturday. And of course, we'll keep an eye on Memphis Athletics to let you know about that. But as far as the forecast is concerned for Saturday, right now it looks fantastic. Lots of sunshine mixing in with a couple of clouds, temperatures in the 80s during the course of the game. Again, that game rescheduled for Saturday at 2:30, Memphis Tigers and the South Florida Bulls. As far as our forecast is concerned, again, we can see that upward trend. I think our muggiest day will be on Sunday. It's not going to even be to the same extent as it was on last weekend. That next cold front comes sweeping through the area Sunday into Monday. Now, I will say that there has been some back and forth on the timing of the front, and that may have some indication ultimately of how the temperature plays out on Monday. We may have to nudge the numbers up if it's a little bit more delayed, or nudge them down if it's a little bit quicker. But delayed or denied, it doesn't matter. I don't think we're going to be denied here on this cold front. Most indications have us getting way cooler heading into Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Highs in the 60s, lows in the 40s. And if we're calling for 44 here in the city of Memphis, more than likely in the outlying areas, probably going to have some sprinkled in upper 30s that could lead up to some patchy areas of frost. Not completely out of the realm of possibility. A gradual warming trend puts us back into the 70s next week. I will also mention there could be an isolated shower Sunday or Monday as that front sweeps on through here. But even with that being said, those chances are going to be pretty slim. And to be honest with you, the next 7 to 10 days does not look to feature very much in the way of appreciable rainfall. It may be after this forecast, going into the 12 to 14 day period, that we could see our first opportunity for rain coming back into the fold. So by that point in time, we'll be needing the rainfall coming back here across the Mid-South. But the next couple of days, warming trend before the big cool down heading into next week. So you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, highs of 65. That's more akin to early November.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. Get this, more than 64 million Americans live with a disability, and most of them do not have the help of a service dog. Service dogs can do amazing things. It's really incredible how you can train them to pull wheelchairs, turn on light switches, open and close doors and drawers, pick up various items that have dropped, and plenty more. In fact, service dogs are more than just companions. They are essential partners in helping people navigate the world for so many. Many of them have disabilities. Let's bring in a couple of ladies here to talk more about the importance of service dogs and what they mean for our country. I'm joined now by Raquel White. She is with Corporate Affairs and Eukanuba. And then I have Paige Mazzioni. She is with Canine Companions. Ladies, good morning to you both. Let's talk a little bit about, first off, Paige, let's go to you and talk a little bit about the service dog industry and the involvement in training these dogs. Good morning.
Good morning. So as you said, 64 million Americans and growing have a disability that can be helped with the support of a service dog. And at Canine Companions, we train service dogs and place them with people with over 65 different disabilities, everything from physical disabilities to cognitive disabilities to hearing loss to military-related PTSD. And we place our dogs with children, adults, and veterans free of charge. We also have facility dogs who work with professionals in settings like the criminal justice system, hospitals, and education, and they help many people every day. And we have a 98% success rate with our matches with our clients.
How long does it take to train a service dog? Does it depend?
No, it takes about 2 years total. We invented the concept of the modern service dog in 1975, and we created the methods of training to teach the tasks that mitigate the symptoms of a disability. And since then, we've evolved our training at our 7 campuses where our professional trainers train our dogs in over 45 tasks. And as you said, those tasks can be everything from opening doors, picking up items, many, many tasks that mitigate the symptoms of a disability. We also make sure that we look at the aptitude of the dog and place it with a person that's well matched for their future partnership.
Yeah, amazing video that was just shown about all the different things that service dogs can do for so many different people. Raquel, over to you. Tell me about Eukanuba and some of the different programs they have in place from now until the end of the year to support the training of these dogs.
Absolutely. You know, for more than 30 years, Eukanuba has partnered with Canine Companions to provide the science-based nutrition that pets need, that these service dogs need, especially formulated, because it is so important to be involved with an organization like this that does so much for so many people in a specific community. This year, we have a program called Feed Eukanuba, Fuel Independence, and it's where through the end of the year, you can buy a 28-pound bag or larger of Eukanuba dog food, and $20 will go to Canine Companions to support their mission and to help them with the funds, because as Paige said, you know, they give these dogs to people with disabilities absolutely free of charge. So this is to help them with that.
That's fantastic. You know, I love that. And Paige, is there a back order? I don't know how else to say it, but is there a greater demand for service dogs than there are service dogs?
Absolutely. There is a huge demand, and we are constantly trying to grow to place more dogs with more people because that demand continues to grow. And we do have an instructor here who can show some of the tasks if you'd like to see it.
Would love to see it. Let's see it.
All right, Thorn. Thorn, get. Good job, buddy. Come on. Thorn, lap. Good job. Good. Give. Good job, buddy. Good. Off. Very nice. Good.
That is fantastic. I love it. Live demonstration right here on the digital desk. Appreciate that, ladies. Raquel, if someone wants to be a part of this, perhaps donate to this campaign, even if they don't have a dog, how can they do that?
You know, it's so important for people to get involved. So like you said, to donate, Canine Companions is a 501c3 charity, and so any amount is welcomed and needed. You can also volunteer. They have a number of volunteer opportunities. You can volunteer to fundraise for them. You can even volunteer to become a puppy raiser, which I can't imagine anything better. Or like we mentioned, you can buy the Eukanuba food. So if you'd like to learn more, you can visit eukanuba.com/us/canine-companions.
Excellent. And Paige, anything else before we let you go? I love who's sitting between you two right there.
This is Jingle. Jingle loves to be loved and loves to love, as you can tell. So the dogs are great at performing tasks. They're also great at giving love. He's demonstrating.
Well, ladies, listen, I appreciate it very much. Thank you for really kind of shedding a light on this issue and really giving us detailed information about it. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. David McCloskey is a former CIA analyst, and while at the CIA, he wrote regularly for the President's Daily Brief, delivered classified testimony to congressional oversight committees, and briefed senior White House officials. He is now turned into a spy thriller novelist. He's going to release his third book, and he's joining me on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. David, nice to meet you. So tell me, how did you go from CIA analyst to novelist? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Andrew. Thanks for having me on. So it wasn't a very clean transition, I would say, to say the least. I worked on Syria and the Middle East pretty much exclusively when I was inside Langley and working from the region. And when I left the agency, I had worked on Syria as it sort of went from this relatively stable country into complete, sort of chaos, breakdown, and civil war. And so the writing, as I left the agency, I think was really an attempt to sort of come to terms with what I had seen and lived through, and to really kind of process it emotionally, to be quite frank. I never intended to write spy thrillers, but I, in the writing, sort of found a way to understand what I thought about the world, what I thought about the war, and what I had lived through. And I found that it was something that just put me into kind of utter flow, 6-7 hours disappear while you're writing. And so I wrote for about 3 or 4 months, and then basically put everything aside, took a different job. I'd left the CIA and came back to it several years later with the goal that I would take what I had written, which was actually quite terrible, if I'm being honest, and turn it into something that other people might want to read. And my first novel came out of that, and now I'm on book 3, which just came out yesterday.
Well, congratulations to you. And I could see where, something like that could be very therapeutic based upon, what you've been through, what you've seen. Can you tell us, like, the years you were in the CIA and how long have you been out and writing these spy novels?
So, yeah, I was in from 2006 to 2014. I actually joined right out of college, or actually during college, as an undergraduate intern. I took my first polygraph when I was 19, and my resume at the time when I applied, literally the job that I had had prior to CIA was I had been a cashier at Wendy's, and I also dug holes for a sprinkler system company. So literally, it got me young. Let's put it that way. And so I was in until 14, and I left. I took a consulting job, did that for a number of years, and then really have started to kind of write full time within the last 4 years or so to get those 3 books out.
So tell me how much these books are about your previous life with the CIA.
Well, certainly, I would say none of them are autobiographical by any stretch, but I really do try to render the CIA authentically as much as possible. A lot of spy fiction is really wonderful. It's incredibly entertaining. It doesn't attempt to deal realistically with the CIA, the operations, the tradecraft, all the way down to kind of the culture, the moral ethic, the sort of code, right? I wanted my books to do that because the CIA is, I think, it's an important institution. It's a misunderstood institution. It's got warts and wonderful things and all of the above, right? I wanted to show that, and I wanted to show what it's actually like to be a CIA analyst or to be a CIA case officer, because those are real people, and bring those characters to life really in the context of stories that are trying to deal really realistically with the CIA and also deal really realistically with geopolitics, with the Middle East, with Russia, with sort of the present day state of domestic politics here in the States. I want the books to have that kind of realism and authenticity to ground them.
You're selling it hard, and I enjoy it. I'm eating it up right now. So, so tell me where you were. So from 2006 to 2014, can you tell us some of the different countries where you were stationed and what that was like?
Yeah, so look, like I said, I was a Middle East hand, so I spent time all around the region, a lot of time in Syria prior to the war. Saudi, Israel, Jordan, Turkey, the Gulf for various lengths of time and all of that. So, I really was deep on the Middle East, and the best way I think you could think about what I was doing or what CIA kind of does in general is it's a lot like clandestine journalism, right? You're looking for sources that have information. You're looking for people who have secrets that the United States wants, and you're attempting to sort of get that information and to write it down, brief it, communicate it in the sort of most coherent, objective way possible, so that American policymakers can make the best decisions with that information. So that's kind of, at a high level, exactly what I was attempting to do in the region and also at Langley in those years from 2006 to 2014.
A lot of people might say, hey, David, that's a really exciting job. It sounds like fun. Every day is a different issue and different things pop up. Why did you leave?
Yeah, it's a good question, and one that I still think about sometimes now. I left for very sort of mundane reasons. I was back in DC after some time in the region, and my wife and I were looking at having a family and thought we might not want to do that in the Washington, DC area. Wanted to get out, get back with family, start kind of a new life somewhere and, get out of government for a while. And so it really wasn't, I don't have a sexy story about, some kind of disagreement with the CIA or anything like that. It really was a desire to try something new and to get out of DC. And so we left, and we're in Texas and loving it at this point.
Excellent. Now, 2014, so there was the killing of Osama bin Laden during that time. Were you anywhere near that?
No, I was at Langley actually the morning that was announced, and was inside for that, but I was not involved in that in any way, shape, or form. Although I will say that the speech that Leon Panetta, the then director of CIA, gave that morning is the happiest I have ever seen a CIA director, in any of my time inside or since. It looked like it was Christmas morning for him, and he gave a very rousing, very colorful, very earthy speech to the workforce that morning that was really meaningful.
Excellent, excellent. Well, listen, we could talk all morning long about this. First off, tell us our audience where they can pick up your book. What should they look under? What's the best way to check it out?
Yeah, so the new book is The Seventh Floor, which is the kind of CIA executive suite where the director and all the senior leadership sit. You can get it pretty much wherever you get your books. Amazon, IndieBound, your local bookstore, Barnes & Noble, available in all formats, ebook, audio, old-fashioned hardcover. Wherever you get your books, The Seventh Floor. You can also learn more about me at davidmccloskeybooks.com.
David McCloskey, really appreciate you coming on the Digital Desk and spelling it out and being open and honest about your former life in the CIA and what you're doing now. And man, that was cool. We could talk all morning long about this stuff. If you're ever in Memphis, would love to get together with you. But listen, take care of yourself. Congratulations on releasing your third book, and we appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. Really enjoyed our discussion.
Yeah, likewise. The Action News 5 Digital Desk. Chest pain versus heartburn. Sometimes you might feel a pain in your chest and you might think it's heartburn, or is it something more? Could it be a heart attack? Could it be something else? Let's discuss this right now with Dr. Anna Yang. She is a physician at Regional One Health. Appreciate you joining us once again on the Digital Desk, Dr. Yang. So what's the first thing we should do when we have chest pain and we want to figure out whether maybe it's just heartburn and maybe it's something a little more serious? Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks again for having me. So chest pain, what a big topic. Chest pain, there's a whole lot of things that can cause chest pain. So a lot of us, when we think of chest pain, we automatically think of heart attacks. And that is definitely a big cause of chest pain and an important one that we definitely don't want to miss. But there are a lot of other causes of chest pain. So heartburn, like you mentioned, is one of the causes. But there's a lot of other things too. Even just, a muscle strain on the chest wall or inflammation of the cartilage on the chest wall can cause chest pain. In addition to heartburn, other conditions of the esophagus, like an ulcer in your stomach or esophagus, inflammation of your lining of the esophagus, or even lung conditions like infections of the lung or fluid on the lung, or abnormal heart rhythms, or even a blood clot in the lungs, or a tear in the major vessel of your chest. There are a lot of things that can cause chest pain. Even stress and panic attacks alone, when there's nothing actually physically wrong in the chest, even just having stress can cause you to feel like you're having chest pain. So chest pain is definitely a huge topic and something that can be very concerning. And it's got a whole range of things, from really bad to not so concerning. So the first thing to do, if you're concerned, is to definitely go see your doctor. So if this is your first time and the chest pain is definitely concerning and worrisome, and especially if you have got risk factors for heart disease or lung conditions, potentially the emergency room is where to go to make sure this isn't something serious. Your doctor there can do a whole lot of different tests ranging from, blood tests to imaging like x-rays or CAT scans. They can do an EKG to check the electrical activity of your heart. But if it's not one of those major concerning things, there are a lot of other factors that can cause chest pain too. So things like heartburn, which kind of are more associated with food, and it feels more like a burning pain in your chest, can be treated by your doctor and potentially by a gastrointestinal specialist too, if your regular doctor or primary care doctor is having difficulty managing your symptoms with just antacids and some basic medication and dietary changes and lifestyle changes.
Dr. Yang, don't take this the wrong way, but the last thing I want to do is go to the emergency room. I want to try and figure it out at home. And, if we're sitting at home, perhaps watching TV, or we're in bed reading a book, and you get that heart pain or you get that chest pain, is there ways that we can figure out what we have at home? Is there maybe some things that we can do to say, okay, this is serious, or maybe this isn't as serious as I thought?
So that can be really tough and really tricky because sometimes, your classic chest pain from a heart attack or a heart condition or a lung condition can be tough to identify. So some of your classic, chest pain coming from your heart symptoms include maybe you have an abnormal heart rhythm with it, or your heart beats, racing or flipping beats, or something's wrong with it. Usually chest pain associated with your heart is what we call exertional, which means it happens when you're walking or climbing stairs or running or doing something to exert yourself. And usually people with heart type of chest pain also have risk factors. So maybe you've got longstanding high blood pressure or diabetes or high cholesterol or other things that put you at, or smoking or other things that put you at risk for increased likelihood of heart conditions. If you can remember back to, a specific exercise, or you lifted something wrong and, this is muscle pain in your chest that every time you move a certain way or stretch your chest wall or your arm or something, it reproduces the pain, that's more likely to be muscle pain. Or just, an inflammation in your chest wall as opposed to something deeper inside of your chest. And then, like I said, heartburn is more associated with certain foods and triggers. So, if you just ate, an orange or a lot of tomato sauce with your pizza or something, and this is a trigger for your heartburn or reflux, then that's more likely to be it. But again, if you are concerned and if you can't tell, especially if this is your first time with this pain, it's new, it's different, potentially it's severe, just go get yourself checked out. Because if it is a heart attack or, something more concerning, it's not something you want to wait on.
Right. Is there other advice you give to some Mid-Southerners right now? I mean, it's, with regards to this, because I don't know, like for example, watching the Alabama-Georgia game, it was intense. It was all over the place. You know, a lot of people get excited about, you know, their sports teams and different things that are happening. And sometimes that can lead to, you know, your heart or your chest feeling a little bit out of sorts. And the last thing you want to do is go to the emergency room if you don't have to. What advice can we give to people so they can, you know, kind of self-diagnose a little bit?
So self-diagnosis is always hard, especially when we've got resources like Google search and, WebMD and all sorts of sources out there. And the more we Google search, sometimes, all of our symptoms are there and it scares us more than it needs to sometimes. But yes, you're definitely right. Emotional stress, excitement, activity, any of those things can trigger, chest pain and discomfort in your chest area. So if that happens and it is associated with one of these, if it's kind of like a sharp pain that goes away quickly and is gone, it is most likely nothing. However, again, it is really, really hard sometimes to tell the difference. If it's persistent, not going away, severe, and especially if you have risk factors for concerning things, make sure you get checked out. Some other things, some of your other symptoms can provide clues too. So if you're also having difficulty breathing, if you're having nausea or vomiting with it, if you're, when you have your chest pain, you get all sweaty all of a sudden or feel cold and clammy, all those things can also point to what your chest pain cause could be. For example, if you're having chest pain and you've got shortness of breath and cough with it and runny nose and fever and maybe sore throat, then, the chest pain that you're having may just be a cold. Or, potentially worst case, if your symptoms are more severe, potentially pneumonia or some sort of infection. But again, there are just so many different causes of chest pain. It's definitely hard to go over all of them in, the short time that we have here. But the main thing is if you are concerned and things are not normal, things are not going away, the chest pain that you're having doesn't really make sense with the circumstances, or you have risk factors for potentially severe, conditions, make sure you get checked out.
That's good advice. I also agree with you. Sometimes if you go to WebMD or you go to Google and you put in some of the symptoms you're having, it goes to the worst possible situation. Like, oh my gosh, you have terminal cancer. Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait, I'm just trying to figure out what's wrong with my cough that I'm having. Anyway, is there a place, Dr. Yang, where we could go that Regional One Health perhaps has, where we can get, just kind of some clear ideas of chest pain, heartburn versus something a little bit more serious?
So the best resource I'm going to say is always going to be your doctor. Now, if you need immediate care, then go to the emergency room. Potentially, if you're uncertain and want some advice, you can call your regular doctor's office and ask some questions. But always going to your regular doctor for regular checkups and asking them any questions is where you're going to get your most reliable resources. Now, there is some good information online. There are some good websites out there that are reliable and aren't just, alarmist and way too general to be useful. But some of them are just, potentially even inaccurate out there. So always make sure, you go to your doctor to ask these questions. They can also, if you're going regularly, make sure they're screening you for risk factors and things like that, that you can potentially catch and control and improve to decrease your chances of this chest pain that you might have in the future being something severe or life-threatening or, one of those major things.
Okay, Dr. Anna Yang, we appreciate the time always on the digital desk. Thanks so much for stopping by. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
All right, that does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Get out and enjoy the sunshine. An amazing day ahead. In fact, there's an amazing several days ahead. We have Action News 5's midday report coming up at the top of the hour. And you have Ariana Poindexter, Jerry Askin. They'll take you through the next hour. Maggie McCauley as well, giving you the forecast for the next 7 to 10 days. We have dry temperatures, cool, crisp temperatures in the mornings and in the evenings, and then temperatures up in the upper 70s, 80s as well throughout the day. So make sure you tune in for that. And then join us once again bright and early for a Friday edition of the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We go from 7 until 11 each and every weekday morning. You can find us on all of our digital platforms, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, YouTube, and Roku. And you can watch us on television, digital channel 5.3. That's the Action News 5 Plus channel, or channel 907 on Xfinity. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon.